teammates have come together. Mills is through the air. There's contact in the battle for the lead at Indianapolis. McKinzie jumps.
Hello, good evening and welcome ladies and gentlemen to another exciting and entertaining round of racing action in the Alpha Touring Challenge Season 16 as brought to you on the premier sim racing platform available only on PC, known as iRacing, and proudly powered by both Syncmesh and Glass and Steel Photography and Design. Round 8 is on the cards today, and for it, our final sprint race round of the season. But what better place to go racing for two 25-minute races than by making our way to the United Kingdom for none other than the home of racing in the northwest of England. We're here at the Oulton Park International Circuit, a circuit conceived on venerable land, once the home of a family manor. It is now the home of a circuit which is absolutely loved for touring car racing action. Indeed, invented so that way nobody would have to travel too far south to go to the likes of Silverstone or Brands Hatch. It has become a mainstay of the TCR UK and British Touring Car Championship calendars year in year out to this day, and at its very core, a whole variety of elevation changes, sweeping bends, plenty of blind apexes, and a very narrow road racing surface. Around here, it's very easy to end up in the weeds, but if you do, you'll very quickly find your way to the tyre barriers, and for the very best out there, track position will be key, and there's going to put a high emphasis on qualifying, but also exactly where you start in both of the races. But as we get ready to take a look back at all the racing action from round number 8 of the Championship in this post-round broadcast, because of course, the racing action occurred as of Monday, the 23rd of February 2026, where we reach as if it were live today. On this Tuesday, the 24th of February, well, where exactly are my manners? Because I should welcome you all to this broadcast from Circuit Side. Indeed, you're catching this broadcast right now on the one and only place you can catch the weekly racing action for the Alpha Touring Challenge. And that is, of course, on YouTube at youtube.com and search for Paul Walsh Productions or PWP, and you can be tuning in there. And as we get ready to go racing today, well, of course, our schedule. Let's talk a little bit about that. Times in Eastern Standard Time, that's EST, or Universal Coordinate Time, -5, UTC -5. And as we can see, in approximately what will be about 11 minutes time, when we make our way into our qualifying session. 10 minutes in duration, or drives out there in an isolated instance of the circuit, lone qualifying, and they will have the best part of 4 laps to try and get things absolutely right. After which we'll head to the grid for the first of our 2 races, the first of our 2 final 25-minute sprint races, one of which will be at 9:25 this evening. Then after that, we'll take a brief breather before returning to the grid at 5 to 10 this evening for our second and final race of this round. 2 very intense races await us, of course, and we're going to bring you up to speed with all that racing action as it unfolds. And in the commentary, you have myself, none other than Paul Walsh, and I'll be bringing you all your racing action over the entirety of the season, including today. But we should remind you, of course, that we are treating this as if it were live, and therefore we in the commentary booth do not know what happens, whether it be in the practice session that's gradually coming to a close, or the upcoming qualifying session, nor, most importantly, in our 2 upcoming races. But as we make our way into round number 8, let's give you a recap of the season so far, and in particular, what exactly happened last time out in Mexico. Because last time out, on the 16th of February, we were at the Autodromo Hermanos Rodriguez, the Mexico City circuit, for our final 45-minute endurance race round. The rest of our endurance race rounds after which are 60 minutes in duration, and what we got to see in Mexico was something of incredulity. In the fact that firstly, overall at the very front in the Alpha Drivers' Championship, we got to see another win for Michael Polasek. However, on paper, you would argue it was not going to come his way, because there was one name in particular that absolutely led the way, particularly in qualifying, in a close shootout between Polasek and himself, and it was none other than Matthew Meilleur, who in the end took pole position by 0.045 seconds, and he seemed set to run away with things. But in intrigue, Wojciech Swirydowicz had a lightning start, got onto the back of Meilleur early on, and then suddenly what unfolded after that, well, you could not make it up. Firstly, as Wojciech Swirydowicz was getting ready to make a move in towards one of the heavy braking zones, technical issues blighted his car, and he had to retire from the race. So he was down for the count, and Polasek was moved to second. However, Meilleur still had plenty of space up the road between himself and the four-time defending champion, but then suddenly, an unsafe pit entry when he came in for his mandatory pit stop meant that Matthew Meilleur was held in the pit, and Michael Polasek was able to retake the lead and run away with it to the finish. And that is how Michael Polasek now stands at the top of the standings by a growing margin, and if he's able to make it a good set of results today, he will definitely feel as though everything is coming his way and a fifth title is not too far off in the distance. But if that's what happened overall, then what exactly happened in the Gamma class? Well, there's only one name that really stood the test of Mexico City, and that was Raymond Thieu. He may have been 3/10 of a second off a pole position in qualifying to the times of both his teammate, of John Lauzon, the pole sitter, and also Matthew Shepka, but Shepka had an early curb strike as he made his way up through the stadium section, and that saw him have to go to the pits for repair work and forced him off strategy. Meanwhile, for John Lauzon, it wasn't quite there with regards to the pace compared to Thieu, and in the end, well, the first of the two teammates in the championship was able to get the job done and extend his championship lead. And as for the Delta class, well, we got to see a new name take his first Delta win of the season, Jared Cowlins, with an absolutely infamous 6-wide overtake in the run to turn number 1. You will have seen it on the thumbnail for today's broadcast, and the car on the very left of that picture was Jared Cowlins' own Hyundai Elantra, and he was the man who was able to leap into the lead of the class by the exit of turn number 3 on the open lap, and after that was able to walk away the lead of the race. Although some would argue that he was helped to a degree by a jump start penalty for pole sitter Carl Flannery, who took his first pole position of the season from qualifying in the Delta class, and also contact between Kurt Smith and Zach Hudarko later on in the race definitely meant that in the end Cowlins was definitely settled for that win, no matter what his rivals threw at it. But of course, 3 rounds to go, and as we make our way into this 8th round in our 5-year anniversary season, it has been a season that's kept us guessing so far, and we definitely love those seasons, do we not? Well, as we come into this one, well, let's talk a little bit about our circuit in the Cheshire countryside. Because as we can see, as the drivers get ready to take on the Oulton Park International Circuit, minus its chicanes, located near the little village of Little Budworth in the Cheshire countryside of England, or 2.69 miles in length or 4.33 kilometres, but put it all together and what you find that this is a circuit not for the faint-hearted. Now, a huge thank you to iRacing.com, not sure the brilliant simulator, but the absolutely fantastic track maps that come with it. However, a two-dimensional image doesn't quite demonstrate the amount of elevation change over the course of the lap, let alone between two corners, and that's where the major elevation gradients will definitely unsettle our drivers. Now, in terms of walking you through the ratings of our circuit here, tyre stress-wise, well, we do see that being moderate at a rating of 3. And this circuit, minus its chicanes, has a lot less tyre stress compared to we did have those chicanes in the circuit, but of course, the fact that we have taken away both the Britons and Hislop chicane is to open up overtaking opportunities down the back straight at Hilltop in particular, coming from Shell Oils all the way through to Knickerbrook Corner. However, we still do have some high load corners, particularly at Shell Oils, also at Cascade at turn number 3, and also turn number 10, Druids Corner there, where it's double right apex. It's definitely going to catch a few drivers out and wear down that front left tyre. Heavy braking wise, well, now we only do have the best part of 2 heavy braking zones. The first one of which being none other Shell Oils Corner, and the other one of which being at Lodge Bend, so almost complete lap there. So it's not too much heavy braking involved here, and that's why the brakes will feel relatively cool by the end of the race. In terms of the overtaking difficulty, however, this arguably is one of the hardest circuits to overtake out on the calendar, if not the hardest for this season, given the fact that the circuit itself does not stop you from trying to do overtakes, but it's the limitations on the width of the circuit. You can go 2 wide around this circuit at the best of times, 3 wide on the start finish straight. That's the only place where we can expect 3 wide to work out. And therefore, for our drivers, they need to be very tactical with where they try to make overtakes. Add to that as well the fact there's only really one racing line around here. If you go off racing line to make a move, you're going to lose a lot of pace if you battle with another driver, and that's what makes this a very tricky circuit to overtake at. Plus, the fact that you've got to commit into several of these corners, and they are blind. Indeed, blind bends include none other than Cascades at turn number 3, a very late apex there. Also, the fact that Island Bend has a very late apex, while the fastest corners of the circuit, Shell Oils, is also blind. Also, we do have the blindness of Druids Bend, and also to a degree Lodge Corner. So therefore, that's what makes this circuit so difficult to overtake at. And the same with off tracks, and the fact there's very little room to get this wrong around here. If you go to the grass, you are taking a long trip away from the circuit, and you may even find a barrier along your way, and that's why it's been given 4 out of 5. In terms of pit entry, well, it is a bit of a challenging one in the fact that our drivers will need to deflect the way straight off the racing line coming out of Deer Leap to make the way into the pit lane. And also, it's a very tight pit entry, and it has actually got a chicane in the pit entry, and that was introduced for safety reasons to stop drivers essentially going full charge into the pit lane in real life, and therefore requiring our drivers to slow down before entering the pits. As for the pit exit, that's also challenging because our drivers will have to go through an alternative rendition of Old Hall Corner at turn number 1 to make the way onto the avenue and get back up to racing speed once again. Now, in terms of what is our symbology on the map, we can see that in terms of our best overtaking opportunities, there are 3 major overtaking zones. The first one being at Cascades at turn number 3, the downhill left-hander that goes from heavily off-camber to cambered. Also, we do have the run up towards Shell Oils Corner. You could always expect 2 wide go through there, and then the run all the way up to Lodge Bend from Druids. That's also a primary overtaking zone. Now, you may also notice we do have plenty of the Danger Doritos, the yellow ones, the past instant Doritos there. And if anybody was a fan of Call of Duty Black Ops 2, you may know what I'm referring to with regards to Danger Doritos, but don't worry, we don't have any what is orbital VTOL kill streaks going on here, but indeed we have had some races in the past where drivers have got on an instant streak, and well, there have been instants, particularly in the run through Dentons at turn 2 in towards Cascades in the past, whereby it's very easy to get it wrong there, particularly with a bump in the road coming out of Dentons, and you have to brake before it, otherwise the car will understeer deep into number 3, and will come through Cascades. If the car in front of you understeer, you're very quickly going to be making your way into the back of it. Also, we do have Island Bend, the scene of many a major incident in both real life and also in the simulator, that fast left-hander there, where our drivers will be making their way through at speeds in excess of 110 miles an hour before they get into the heavy breaks over Shell Oils Bend. We also do have the occasional check-up at Knickerbrook Corner, given how fast it is, and will the chicane that would be there, his lots was actually introduced in real life in order to be able to curb the momentum of cars, because it wasn't there originally, but it was introduced due to the risk, particularly for motorcycle racing at the speed that motorcycles were carrying through that corner. We also do occasionally have incidents at Druids Bend as well. A small tap considered driver very wide towards the barriers, and also Lodge Bend with its major gravel trap. In terms of early traffic jams, also the same corners in a way, can expect the early traffic jams of the opening couple of laps, particularly coming through Dentons down into Cascades, and also in the run up towards Shell Oils Corner. Whereas at Lodge Corner, if you're on a tight pack towards the end of the lap after lap, you may find a lot of checking up and the concertina effect really playing havoc. But that is a quick rendition of the Oulton Park circuit, and as always, a huge thank you to the AlphaTauri Change administration team for providing us with these cheat sheets. They're absolutely brilliant to give us all an idea of what exactly we can come to expect here at our circuits week in, week out. But as we get ready to go racing, of course, let's give you a reminder of the rules as we do take on a sprint race round today. Firstly, this is an open setup series with drivers bring the setup of their choosing to each and every round of racing and to every race session. In terms of the sprint races themselves, well, the races will commence via a standing start as an addition of the Alpha Touring Challenge and touring car racing in general. The grid for race number 2 shall be set based on the results of race 1, but we invert the top 13 finishing positions. What does that mean exactly? Well, the grid for race 1 is set based on qualifying, and once we get the results of race number 1, we take them and we flip the top 13 finishers. So the winner overall starts 13th overall for race number 2, and we continue that inversion until we get to the 13th place finisher overall, and they will fortunately be starting on pole for our second race of the day. And those who finish 14th and downwards, you guessed it right, they'll be starting right where they finish race number 1 as they make the way to the grid for race number 2. Now, each driver has one fast repair available should they need to use it in the race, and the driver shall receive a drive-through penalty if they accumulate 15 more instant points, and they shall be disqualified if they double that up to 30. And all race shooting shall be conducted post-race. But without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, with our time here at Oulton Park due to get underway, well, let's make our way back to circuit side, and in brilliant time as well. It gives us a chance to bring you up to speed with regards to all the championship standings, and let's quickly bring you up to them as we get ready to go into the qualifying session. So started off with the Drivers' Championship overall, or the Alpha Championship. This is the big prize, of course, that everyone is trying to chase. Michael Polasek right now leads on 994 points. The best part there of 83 ahead of Logan McKinzie, with the Pennzoil Super Touring driver not quite able to stay on the pace of the Yellow Flag Motorsport driver. But one thing's for certain right now, if Michael Polasek is able to land 2 great results today, he will effectively be putting one hand on the title going to Sebring in a week's time. Logan McKinzie, meanwhile, well, he now knows that second place is looking increasingly a good prospect, although he needs to keep up the good run of form after a third place finish last time out. Despite starting 6th, we've shown one thing over the course of Mexico City, and that is his consistency and his ability to gradually extract pace as the race goes on is unparalleled. Raymond, to you, third place overall, your leading Gamma driver for Beaver and D's. And after brilliant set performances for him in the previous couple of rounds, he really topped it off in Mexico with an absolutely emphatic run to a second place finish, having started 7th. And whilst he did not have the pace in qualifying necessarily, he found the race pace, and also the misfortune of others came to his grace. Micah Hendricks sits in 4th there for Croc Promotions, and well, when he has a good day, he looks absolutely fantastic. When he's not having a good day, meanwhile, he definitely has the polar opposite. And right now, the Croc Promotions driver there slithering onto the back of Raymond to you, and he'll be hoping he can perhaps get a snap there, as the Crocodile should. John Lauzon sits in 5th for Beaver and D's. The Canadian driver there right now hoping to have a bit more fortune alongside Raymond to you, although he did have the fortune in qualifying, of course, but in the race he didn't quite have the pace to match it up. He's ahead of Dan McFarlane in their battle for the second of the 2 Gamma spots, although when we bring you to the Gamma standings, you'll see how close it is between them. Dan McFarlane right now in 6th place for Sim Racing Grid, not too far behind. And then we do have Wojciech Swirydowicz for Breakfast and Dinner, who understandably, if he'd not had the technical issues the last time out at Mexico, not earlier on in the season, you could say that he could be right up there battling with Polasek, but it hasn't been to be. Matthew Meilleur, meanwhile, sits in 8th place there for S Yacht G, and well, we get it pronounced right that time. Hopefully we got it right. And well, the sister team there to Sim Racing Grid, well, he's suddenly sat in 8th place there, and after what was that unfortunate unsafe entry into the pit lane, well, now understandably the number 12 driver hoping that he does get things right today, because he definitely has the pace to take wins. He's just got to get things done right. Cooper Akers sits in 9th place there for Pennzoil Super Touring, the number 29 driver, just ahead of John Daniels, and only just ahead now after the fact that Akers had non-starts in the previous round, whether it's in qualifying or the race. A technical issue blighted his car, and that's brought him to the bottom of the top 10, with John Daniels right behind, only 12 points adrift. Behind the T0 Racing Summit driver in 11th is Mike Almeida for Yellow Flag Motorsport on 595, looking to try and break his way back into the top 10 before the season is done, with Zachary Bowman in at 12th there for Pennzoil Super Touring. And then we do have Major Modsvi ahead of Tyler Long, your leading Delta driver overall, in 14th place, and the T0 Racer Ascent driver picking up a good haul of points last time out. However, not quite the points that Jerry Calnins was able to pick up, and still he'll be happy with the fact he's still leading the Deltas, as we'll show you shortly. Matt Shepka sits in 15th, the Kirby Enthusiasm Autosport driver, or the Senior driver, absolutely fuming after the bad luck that struck him last time out at Mexico, and what could have been a result that would have moved him very close to the top 10 has instead been a result that's relegated to 15th. Franz Wojciech, his teammate, is only 5 points behind, and then it's Chris McDonald, Zachary Leopold, James Carr, and Jared Calnins who round off the overall top 20 in the Drivers' Championship. Meanwhile, coming from the Alpha standings then to the Gammas. And here we can see in the Gamma class, it is Raymond Tew who leads on 876 points, and right now going from 3rd to 1st in Mexico in class means that for the Beaver and D's driver, he is leading a 1-2, and John Lauzon right now is the man who's under pressure, because Dan McFarlane is trying to cook things up. However, it didn't quite work out for Dan McFarlane whatsoever, and a major incident on the opening lap saw him forced to retire from the race, and that's why he slipped behind Lauzon, but it is close between the two, only 30 points separate them. Meanwhile, Cooper Akers with the non-start for Pennzoil Super Touring, he's now finding that very comfortable 4th place has been reeled back in by John Daniels, with the Tier 0 Racing Summit driver meanwhile worried about the fact that Mike Almeida is only 4 points behind. We then have Zachary Bowman in 7th there for Pennzoil Super Touring, also hot on the heels. Indeed, it is heating up right now for 4th place, and then there's a bit of a gap to none other than Major Modsvi in 8th there, the Privateer on 554, and a slightly even bigger gap of 32 points there to Matt Shepka for Sia, who right now, knowing that big result that he lost last time out, could have been the one that brought him right into 5th place. Zachary Leopold completes the top 10 there for Formula Llama, only ahead of James Carr by the best tune of 11 points. And then behind the Breakfast and Dinner driver, it's Damon Mitchell for Crop Promotions, who will be starting from the pit lane once again. He's definitely been making this season hard for himself by going for a car change every round, but he's doing it in honour of the special occasion of the 5-year anniversary, and he's ahead of Connor Achitella, Ian Bertolucci, and Nicholas Sudik, who round off your Gamma standings. Then coming to the Delta class here, and we've got plenty of Deltas, so we'll go through them quickly. Tyler Long sits there in the lead of 567 points, and well, last time it was 5th to 2nd for him. It was a poor qualifying session, however, he was able to out-qualify his rivals, and that was the big intrigue in the Delta class in Mexico City. The big names all struggled, but Tyler Long struggled less than Chris McDonald and Evan Clavio, and therefore he's been able to hold on to that championship lead by a relatively reliable margin of the best part of 55 points. But the T0 race of the Centro will know the job is not done, particularly when Chris McDonald, after bringing on home a 4th place finish, well, he made up for it in his qualified session in the race by gaining 5 places, but there's still more work for him to do. The Gator Racing driver is ahead of Jared Cownins, who has now moved into 3rd. He has usurped Evan Clavio, getting ahead there with his first class win of the season, and Clavio meanwhile fall into 4th there for Sim Racing Grid. Now 466 points, he's got no threat necessarily of 3rd hour originally catching him, as the S Yacht G driver right now definitely looking strong. However, he knows he's needed to keep his head up high because he's got Ronald Meffo not too far behind. Meffo only ahead for Gasparilla Motorsport of T0 Racer sets Carl Trost at this point based on result countback, and then it's JB Dejoux, Zach Hudarko and Austin DeBar who complete the top 10. Outside the top 10, Carl Flannery, well, if it were not for the jump start, what could it have been for him? Could he have moved into the top 10? Well, we're hoping for that today for Gasparilla Motorsport, only 2 points adrift from that top 10, but he is 20 ahead of Gator Race's Jason Lynn, who in turn has his teammate Mark Darnell behind. And Joseph Heath sits in 4th ahead of Mitchell Richmeyer with the Monster Energy Racing Drive 7 points ahead of his teammate Gareth McAllister as they enjoyed some good battling last time out in Mexico. And then we do have Corey Lobner, Sean Gerd, Adrian Fedorowski and Carl Murray completing the top 20. But behind your top 20, looking outside, we do see 21st, it's Spencer Clark for Sia on 130 points, 3 ahead of Kurt Smith for breakfast dinner, who definitely found himself right in the thick of the fight in last time out. And then the privateer of Jonathan Bradford is only 9 points adrift. Jason Breen and Jeremy Barber complete the top 25 ahead of Angel Bonilla Soto, with the Mid-Pack Mafia driver unfortunately picking up quite a sizable penalty, we do believe, from last time in Mexico City, and well, that's definitely going to have a bit of an impact on his day today. In fact, no, we'll correct ourselves there. He's not the one with the penalty, but he has had a door number change. He has gone to 940. Andy Cossack sits in 27th ahead of Lewis Gilbert, with Marcel Thomas and Jalen Kuo, the driver who has picked up a big penalty. Well, there was a 0 in there, but not a 9 and a 4. Well, the Mid-Pack Mafia driver, unfortunately for him, being demoted a significant number of places after the racing in Mexico City due to contacts, and because he has picked up 11 penalty points, he now does have a race ban. So therefore, if he is taking part today, he will not be permitted to take part in the first race of the day, and therefore he will be starting from the very back of the grid for race number 2 here at Oulton Park. So unfortunate for Kuo, and we also do have what is, we should point out, a qualifying ban for Zach Hudarko, who you will not see in qualifying due to the fact he picked up 4 penalty points as of Mexico City. Kevin Johnson's just behind Kuo there, and you keep your eyes out for the Grim Machine as he gets ready to go in the number 24 on 40 points, 1 ahead of Nick Bader, and it's Zach Saunders, Jess Rakowski, Thomas Fancock, Ryan Sproul, Jacob Wilson, Roger Shank, Noah Amiark, and Aaron Lahr, who complete the run to 40th place, with the last 3 there all on equal points. And outside the top 40, let's not forget about them on 5 points there. The last of those to have points to their name, it is going to be none other than Logan Watton, with Marco Mangado, Patrick Rich, Billy Van Beek, Tim Driscoll, Angel Ascendez, Cameron DeBurg, and Nolan Pasola completed your Delta Drivers' Championship. But as for the Teams Championship, well, we covered to the teams very quickly. And as we can see, Pennzoil Super Touring lead the way, but their advantage, it has been cut. 2064 to 2023 for Yellow Flag Motorsport. And it was opposite ends of the fortunes for both teams there, with Pennzoil Super Touring having a very tough round, particularly with a non-start for Cooper Akers, who has been one of the reliable students in terms of gaining points. But the Yellow Flag Motorsport team are rapidly approaching the leaders. But there's another spanner being thrown in the works, because Beaver Indies, who were second for a long time, they fell to third, but last time out they rallied. And well, Lauzon and TU absolutely delivering with 4th and 2nd respectively, and now they're back in the hunt there on 1,948 points. Croc Promotions, they hold on to 4th place, and right now the fight for 4th is just as intense as the fight for the lead, as they do only have the best part there of none other than 39 points to Sim Racing Grid, and then we do have Breakfast for Dinner, a further 69 points adrift, looking nice to be fair, but right now they are going to want to absolutely have a major haul of points, or could they say absolutely glutton themselves on points today. Sia are in 7th, just ahead of S Yacht G, and then we do have Gator Racing and T0 Racing Ascent completed the top 10, with their sister team of Summit being the best part there of 175 points behind. It's then going to be Gasparilla Motorsport, hot on the heels of Summit, ahead of Formula Llama, and then we do have Monster Energy Racing ahead of Mid-Pack Mafia to complete that top 15. A further 9 points behind is 212 Racing, and yet score any points, Chase Sim Racing, Second Breakfast, Academy Sim Racing, and Problem Child Motorsports. As for the Delta Championship, well, here we can see in the Delta Teams Championship, it is Gator Racing leading right now, and with their lead is holding, and the margin is marginal. Only the best part there of now than 79 points ahead of T0 Racing Ascent, and they know right now it's all to play for between these two teams, as meanwhile Gasparilla Motorsport, they had a difficult day in Mexico, and in the high altitude region they did not score high on points, they fell quite low. And right now, Sim Racing Grid and their sister team of SRG are not too far behind and are closing quick. Monster Energy Racing also see themselves a part of the battle for the top 5 spots, and it's Mid-Pack Mafia, a sizable best part there of approximately 300 points behind, 17 ahead of 212 Racing, a further 10 behind them are Kirby Enthusiasm Motorsport, and it's Breakfast for Dinner who complete the top 10, or B4D, and then we do have Crop Promotions and T0 Racing Summit completing the Delta Teams Championship. Well, ladies and gents, so that's a rundown of the standings, and in perfect time then, we make our way into the qualifying session, and well, it is time to see who exactly is going to put it on pole today for the first of our 2 races here at the Oulton Park circuit. Well, hold on to your hats, folks, because this is going to be a qualifying session that could arguably be one of the most important of the season in terms of how much it can have an impact on what be where you start in the racing today and how far you could go in the racing today. And here we go then, as all the drivers start to make their way out the pit lane and see how high they can go. As we do see, Norman Cooper Akers rolling his way out right now. All these drivers together, and we know we're going to have some time start to coming in. And in fact, as everyone makes their way through, we just hide the time tower for now, because of course we'll wait for those first laps to arrive on the scene. But as Cooper Akers heads on out here, what do you need to do to get a good qualifying lap in at the Oulton Park International Circuit? Well, you've got to be committed. That is the most important part here. You've got to have trust that you know exactly the width of the road. Now, if you do a track walk around this circuit, I can tell you one thing, this road also has a lot of micro adjustments around it, whether it be minor elevation changes over the course of the run. You can actually see on some of these camera angles here how the fact that whilst the circuit does look flat, even at this run coming up hilltop, it is very far away from flat even before the significant elevation gradient. This is really one of those circuits that rolls with the landscape of the land, given the fact it is built on the gardens and the land of the old Oulton Park estate. And well, as we do see Cooper Akers making his way through Knickerbrook Corner there, infamous story in regards to Knickerbrook. If you're wondering why it's called that, yes, and indeed it is related to the set of panties being found at the corner. Well, the long story short was when the corner was being created for the circuit, a group of trees had to essentially be blown down. And to do so, explosives were planted. And, well, taking it from the man who did it himself, the name of the gentleman quite coincidentally being Buster Gates, I do believe. Which, if so, well, that's definitely a crazy name to think of, or Buster Barnes. Well, the two, my memory's not too great on the exact name. But the point being that as the explosives went off, that a couple decided to run away from the trees when the explosives went bang nearby. And well, that couple may have been eloping, let's just say. And, well, as the demolition crew made the way over to where the couple stood, there was a set of ladies' panties there. And that's how Knickerbrook Corner gets its name of Knickerbrook. A pair of knickers found a brook that was blown up. Bit of an interesting story, no? But right now, an even more interesting story is what can Evan Clavio do as he comes down through turn number 2 and in towards 3. And as he rolls his way down the hill onto his first flying lap here. And what cars can we expect to be blowing up the timing tower? Well, we have seen so far this season that has been the Hyundai Velosters as Damon Mitchell there. Hold up. What on earth has Damon Mitchell got on his livery for this round? I know he's been running different liveries. We've been running Kermit the Frog, and, well, instead of Kermit the Frog today, he's got a different kind of frog on there. Oh, goodness me. You didn't have to do that, Damon. Those are pictures of me on there from when... Oh, goodness me. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I'm very grateful to David Mitchell for having that all over the car, the Croc Promotions car, and I'm a little bit embarrassed in the commentary booth right now, but in a good way, let's say that. Well, I appreciate the love, David, and, well, you've done very good in bringing my looks to life, and I believe that might have been the photo that was a reference image I provided, or a reference video for the 5-year anniversary videos that some of our drivers did provide earlier in the season at Watkins Glen. Oh, goodness me. Well, David Mitchell definitely having fun out there, and to be fair, that's the one thing about the Alpha Touring Challenge that we do love, is whilst this does get serious on the tarmac, our drivers know how to have a laugh, and there is plenty of lore, there is plenty to talk about day in, day out, where it's on the road, alternatively off the grid, and our drivers absolutely love it, and that's why this series continues to go on so strong after 5 years, and every season it gets stronger and stronger. And, oh well, cheeky David there, but absolutely love the livery. Good on you, good sir. But speaking of good on things right now, Wojciech Swirydowicz currently the fastest with regards to the timings. And what we were going to say before we interrupt ourselves, in terms of the cars that we can expect to do well, the Hyundai Velosters have proven to be the strongest car so far this season. And, well, the rumour has it the Veloster now really has become the strongest car in the TCR BOP on iRacing, and that the adage, which was that the Audi RS3 LMS used to be the quickest on the straights, may not be as true anymore. The Veloster seems to have caught up to it and has retained its jack-of-all-trades nature, so it's become a bit of a speed demon, but also it's an all-rounder. And, well, at that point, is it still jack-of-all-trades? Well, we have to guess that one. But as Polasek makes one around, well, one other car we can expect to go very well here, given the nature of the circuit and the fact it is very corner dominated is the Honda Civic Type R FK8, of which the S-Shark G machine of Matthew Meilleur right now will ride his way onwards, and as he does so, well, he's looking quick in his own regard as he comes on through in towards Water Tower Bend. And remember, Meilleur last time out was the pole sitter in Mexico, and he looks so good for pole and with it the win, but unfortunately in the end that unsafe pit entry cost him the time that he would have needed to be able to make sure that Polasek did not take the win. So therefore Meilleur today will know nothing less than victory is going to be on the cards for him if he can make the magic happen. But as these laps continue to wind on in, well, plenty more laps to cover for all our drivers here. We've got plenty of drivers in the 10 state. The best part of, I do believe, 45 here, and well, 45 drivers at Oulton Park. That's going to be incredibly crowded as Meilleur across the timeline sets the provisional pole lap now at a 33.784, so he's going quicker and quicker. But who else is going faster out there? Well, down in the Deltas, Kurt Smith is up in a 4th place. So that's now 5th as Polasek leaps up to the top and Mighty Almeida jumps to the Gamma provisional pole. But Kurt Smith right now is absolutely flying out there for breakfast or dinner. And what I do know, they do a lovely breakfast here in the trackside restaurant at the Oulton Park circuit. I wonder if he's had that, and well, he's used that as his dinner because it's definitely fired him up. And as he makes his way onwards here, now James Carr, his teammate in the Gamma class, has gone to 6th place. So breakfast or dinner, this seems to be their ultimate hunting ground, and good on them if so, because right now they're absolutely going for it. But speaking of going for things, we need to go on board for a flying lap of the circuit very shortly. But who exactly will we get one with, I hear you ask? Well, I think we are going to be getting on one on board with Matt Shepka, and well, he's heading towards the end of his current lap as the Syncmesh machine charges its way through Water Tower Bend, a very tricky corner to get right before Druids in the dry, let alone in the wet, and the fact that you do have that weight transfer through the left into right complex there, and then you have to go on the brakes in a small bump in the road sits right between the two corners, and that just unsettles the car and invokes additional understeer. But as Shepka comes on through Lodge Bend, well, let's get ready to jump on board with him and take you around for a flying lap, ladies and gentlemen, of the Oulton Park International Circuit. So making his way across that timeline then, and as he does so, building up the speed here to 115 miles an hour as he breaks his way into Old Hall. At top of the brakes, drop 2 gears down to 3rd. Now flat out he'll go as he moves up to 5th out of 34.051, but he's got more work to be done. Going down through Denton's, now brake nice and early here for Cascade, on the bump or just before it. He does it exactly on the bump and drops down to 3rd gear. Nice late apex, now builds up the speed as he makes his way up towards Island Bend. Making his way past the lakeside that's on the left, and now Island Bend here in reference to the hairpin that loops back, but he's going to find himself going leftwards here, flat out as much as he can, battling there with oversteer, lift off oversteer as he comes in towards turn number 5, and as he comes all the way down the brakes to 2nd gear. At 51 miles an hour on the apex, he'll now power his way out, and here, whereas he'd be normally getting ready to break his way in towards the Britain chicane, instead he's going to be flat out here all the way up hilltop and onwards towards Knickerbrook corner. Now here, pushing upwards towards 6th gear at 124 miles an hour, he'll get ready for the upshift, and we'll look into his left-hand side. Finally gets to 6th gear, and then brake it at what will be the 50-meter board, tap the brakes, drop 2 gears, and now chucking the car through at 97 miles an hour. He now makes his way up the rise here, right on the rev limiter there, as he comes over the hill of Clay Hill, and now in towards Water Tower and onto the brakes for Druids. Keep it nice and over to the left here. Hit the first apex, and now keep it nice and tight for the 2nd apex. There's multiple ways to skin that corner. You can go very late for the 1 apex at the very end, or you can double up, and he goes to the double up option. Now looking to his left-hand side for his brake marking. This will be about muscle memory and the marshal's cage on the left-hand side. Comes down to 2nd gear for Lodge Bend, and now in towards Deer Leap as he runs a little bit wide there. Fighting with the car, he's step of the way. Shepka max out every gear, and right now in the Honda, will it be the power of dreams? Has VTEC kicked in? Not quite. He's still just off of the pole time in the Gamma class, but I think that's going to be it for his qualified session, ladies and gents. When he calls on down, and in the end, Mighty Almeida looks to be on top of things with regards to what will be the Gamma class, unless anybody else can improve further on down the order. John Daniels is out there, but he's down in 29th. Meanwhile, Micah Hendricks currently 10th fastest, but he's making a theme of this season, where he doesn't qualify too well compared to his Alpha peers. You can tell who's Alpha by the blue slash against them in at the time tower, but also on the cars there on what is the windscreen banner, they'll have blue next to their name on the car, whereas Gammas have purple stroke pink, and meanwhile the Deltas have yellow. But as Hendricks comes across the line, well, it's not been the best of qualified sessions for him. He's 8 tenths down off a pole, and well, with 1 minute to go or so, is anybody else going to improve out there? Well, we do see Jason Lynn right now, the Glass of Steel photography design maestro, making his way onwards, but right now down in 30th place or 30th in the Delta class. This is not looking good news for him, to be fair. And well, whilst he's making his way around, we do need to give a shout out to Jared Dixon, who makes his debut today in the AlphaTauri Challenge in the Delta class. You'll see him in the number 43, albeit he hasn't taken part in this qualifying session, so I suspect he might be starting from the back of the grid, and wish him all the best luck at the privateer as he makes his debut in his Honda Civic Type R. But as Lynn crossed line to complete his qualifying session, that moves into 24th, a good lap there, 10th in the Delta class, so Lynn finds his way forward and only half a tenth off of Tyler Long. And another surprise, Tyler Long down in 23rd place. It is not going well for Tyler Long. He's really having this oscillating performance now over the course of the season. First half of the season, he was very strong. Second half, it really was roll the dice, albeit I don't think he plans for it to be like that, but that's what it's felt like in qualifying. In the races, he goes very well when he qualifies poorly, but that's not the best sign there for the Delta Championship leader, particularly when today his rivals have all out-qualified him. But Donald just had a Clavio there, 13th and 14th, and also Counting's 19th as John Daniels improves to 20th or 10th in Gamma right at the close of the session. And, well, Micah Hendricks comes to line here on his final flying lap. What's it going to be for the Lego Brick Machine for Croc Promotions? And, well, that's going to be it, ladies and gentlemen. His lap does not improve. And, well, we make our way to the grid for the first of our two races here today. So as all our drivers make the way onto the grid, this holds our lineup for race number 1 in round number 8 of the AlphaTauri Challenge Season 16, as brought to you at iRacing and proudly powered by both Syncmesh and Glass and Steel Photography and Design. It is Michael Polasek who takes pole position for the first time at Oulton Park, the yellow flag motorsport. Then we'll have alongside him on the front row of the grid, Matthew Meilleur for SRG. Behind, tied on all-time wins, 43 apiece with Michael Polasek, is Wojciech Swirydowicz, and whoever takes a victory here today might become the leading all-time race winner. But will it be Polasek or Swirydowicz? Swirydowicz has held the record up to this point. We'll have to see. But the representative driver will start in 3rd place, and he'll be joined on the 2nd row of the grid by your Gamma pole sitter, Mike Dalmeida. What a pole lap from him, and I do believe that is his first Gamma pole lap of the season, if I remember correctly, at least in a sprint race. We then do have behind him, 2nd of the Gammas, just missing out there for Sia. It is Matt Shepka, but still so close in the end, 1.5 tenths between them, and there was only 9 thousandths behind him. We see Logan McKinzie for Pennzoil Super Touring. He's going to be getting deja vu to Mexico City. And then we do have Raymond Tiu, the 3rd of the Gamma, starting 7th there for Beaver and D's, and he's ahead of James Carr for Breakfast for Dinner, who has his best qualifying points of the season in some time. The Canadian driver ahead of his fellow countryman of Kurt Smith, and what a pole lap there from Kurt Smith. 8 tenths off the overall pole time, yes, but Breakfast for Dinner's driver right behind his teammate and taking that pole position quite comfortably in the Delta class. And for Kurt Smith, could this be the day where he lands a major haul of points? Well, he's got Micah Hendricks alongside him for Croc Promotions, round off that top 10. And outside the top 10, starting 11th, it's going to be John Lauzon for Beaver and D's, ahead of Cooper Akers for Pennzoil Super Touring. Akers back on the grid once again then, after his non-start in Mexico, and he'll be happy to be there. He's just ahead of Chris McDonald, who starts 13th. That's going to be 2nd place in Delta, the Gator Racing driver in the company of the man who's been chasing furiously so far this season in the championship. It's Evan Clavier there for Sim Racing Grid. Behind him, starting 15th, it's going to be Zachary Bowman for Pennzoil Super Touring, ahead of Formula Llamas, Zachary Leopold. It's the battle of the Zacks once again. They do have a habit of lining up together on the grid. I don't know how they managed to achieve it from 2 different teams. But then we do see Connor Achitella starting in at 17th place there, and the Yellow Flag Motorsport driver known he's got some work to do, albeit back to the grid today, and he'll be looking to try and inject as many points as possible for Yellow Flag Motorsport's Teams Championship campaign. He's going to have Cole Trost alongside him, as Trost takes his best qualifying points of the season in a sprint race, a T0 race and ascent. Well done to him. That's 4th in Delta, just ahead of Jared Caldins, first time winner last time out at Mexico, but known the sprint race is going to be a completely different kettle of fish. In the conclusion of the top 20, we do have John Daniels there for T0 Racing Summit, and outside the top 20 in 21st place is we had our originally for SRG, and always keep your eyes on him because he does look pretty quick in his machinery. The Honda drive will have the company of Corey Lobner starting 22nd, and behind the privateer it's going to be Sim Racing Grid's Jason Breen, head of T0 Racers it's Tyler Long, who starts 9th in the Delta class, and he really is the biggest shock in this qualifying session, how far back he is for a championship leader, and well, if he can't move forward quickly, that championship lead may be wiped out come the end of today. Jason Lynn follows up on the 13th row for Gator Racing, ahead of Monster Energy Race's Gareth McAllister, and then we do have none other than Joseph Heath starting 27th, although I do believe Heath has opted to start from the pit lane potentially, and Mark Darnell will join him on that 14th row for Gator Racing. Then it's going to be an all-Gamma 15th row to complete your top 30, with Dan McFarlane for Sim Racing Grid and Major Monster Survive, both struggling in qualifying, and McFarlane's a big shock to the system, because he's the man who's trying to hunt down right now the top 2 of TU and Lauzon. Well, this has not gone right at all, but behind them in none other than 31st place is going to be Mitchell Richmeyer for Monster Energy Racing, ahead of Spencer Clark, with the senior driver then being followed up by Jeremy Barber for Monster Energy Racing and the privateer Kevin Johnson. And then we will see Damon Mitchell, whilst he may have qualified 35th, even though he hasn't set a time, he will be starting from the pit lane for Croc Promotion Promotions, ahead of Zach Hodako, who also will be starting from the pit lane. And then we will see Jared Dixon on his debut, the Zimbabwean driver, starting 37th on this grid, ahead of Billy Van Beek. And then it will be Angel Soto, who also, I believe, opted to start for the pit lane by the sounds of things. He will be starting in 39th, effectively. But ladies and gents, without further ado, the grid is set. It's time for race number 1. And here we go for the first time today, ladies and gentlemen. Here come the lights. And it's fire lights and lights down. Away we go here for our first race of the day as I try to head down towards turn number 1. But as they all roll the way through, well, it's been a good start there for Michael Polasek, but pressure will build as they come into this opening corner. 25 minutes begins to tick away. And as they all go right on down in towards turns 1, 2, and 3 for the first time today, well, no change at the front of the field. But meanwhile, further back, already some change afoot as James Carr have made some progress there. And meanwhile, it's going to be a look for Micah Hendricks on the inside of Kurt Smith, but no way through for him as Matt Shepka has started. Well, he's jumped to the pits, in fact, to Shepka, so he's towed already before he's even got green flag racing. I'm not quite sure what's happened to Shepka, but here comes Hendricks looking up the inside of Smith, and he'll take the place immediately. So Smith falls back. He doesn't fight it too hard, but I think Kurt Smith right now prioritising taking the Delta win and also finishing towards the bottom end of the top 13. If he can add all that up together, he's going to give himself the opportunity to make it back-to-back victories here today. But as all the field comes on through, we're looking further back through Showell's Bend. That's 2 by 2 as Corey Lobner up the inside of Jason Lind hold on to 8th place there, the Delta class. But now it's going to be all about the draft here as they come over the hilltop. Major Bondsvite and Dan McFarlane, they're still together, albeit we can see they're too wide here as Bondsvite in the Hot Wheels machine right now, not feeling so hot as Dan McFarlane tries to drag races past in the SRG. And we'll get ready for the braking zone here for Nickelbrook Quarter. Someone's got to give. Who's going to give up the most? And in the end, it is going to be Bondsvite. Just backs off there on the outside. 9, it's not going to work out as they head up the rise. Zach Hodako, he's already up into 30th place, having started from the pit lane, so Hidako's absolutely flown. In fact, he started from the back of the grid with a qualifying ban, and as they roar the way around in towards what will be none other than Druids Bend, well, right now, plenty of fighting to come as Mark Darnell just in front of him, and Hidako on a mission to move forward. Also, Jared Dixon, you can see there right towards the back of the field in the number 43 car. Well, we get to see him on screen now, and right now looking very happy there in the 430 car as he rolls up behind Billy Van Beek. But after one lap of racing, it is Michael Polasek who leads, going on to lap number 2 ahead of Matthew Meilleur. Then we have Wojciech Swirydowicz sat in 3rd place ahead of Mike D'Almeida. Mike D'Almeida being your Gamma leader in 4th ahead of Logan McKinzie, followed by Raymond Tew and James Carr. Tew's already moved from 5th in Gamma to 2nd. He's had a lightning start, Carr's forward backwards. And then Micah Hendricks sits in 8th ahead of John Lauzon with Kurt Smith right now. Gradually letting himself fall a little bit further down the order. He's let Lauzon by. Albeit we can see there Evan Clavio right now, well, wherever he started, that's not added up to where he's now going to chase, but he's all after Kurt Smith as quick as this, and absolutely going on the attack here. But we do see the 187 driver make his way through Shellwell's corner. He's bringing Cooper Akers and Zachary Bowman for the ride, as meanwhile Chris McDonald, he's trying to go around the outside here of Bowman. They're going to be making the way too wide onwards. In fact, he's on the inside there. Let me correct myself, it's the Honda drive we're focusing on, not the Veloster. And as they come over the crest right now, McDonald in the draft, and we ride on board here as we see him try to make some distance. But the problem is right now that Veloster looking very quick on the straights by comparison with the Honda as he heads in towards this braking zone for Nickelbrook Corner. There's not really going to be a way in at the end. He is going to have to wait instead, as that's a bit of a poor run there for Clavio. Going a bit wide coming up through Clay Hill, and well, that's not going to help him out as they make the way in towards Druids. That's going to cause his car to be slightly off camber, and we'll roll away on him right now. No change, but understandably Clavio there making minor mistakes, so those mistakes can add up. We're looking to the number 20 of Jared Cowdins, where he's got Fred Auer originally in close company behind as they're being held to a post by Zachary Leopold at the moment. The Formula Llama drive has fallen back a little bit as they come in towards the right hand of turn number 11. But this is lap number 2, all said and done as quick as that. There's still plenty more laps to go before this one is said and done, no doubt about that. But will there be an opportunity here for Cowdins to try and make a move on Leopold in towards the opening corner? No, he can stay close, but he's not quite close enough here to try and force a move. Meanwhile, Mark Darnell fighting here with none other than Billy Van Beek, and will the Kiwi going around the outside there, and Darnell will drop the place. He will fall to 15th in Delta class as Van Beek now up into 30th. He's had a good start as your number 97 Honda. He's on a mission to move forward, and as quick as he can, he's doing so. Damon Mitchell right now in the interesting livery machine, chased after Spencer Clark, and well, as he tries to hug the back of the 919 Honda, can he make a move here in towards Cascade? Not quite. He's going to have to wait a little bit longer, but things are getting interesting here in towards Isle of Bend, because that's going to be too wide between two teammates. The T0 Racing and Set Machines are long and trolls together, and Carl Trost has not had a happy start to this race. Meanwhile, Tyler Long, he's also fallen back to the grid. Both Elantra drivers here are struggling a little bit, and they've fallen a long way down, and well, that slow start has not helped them out at all. and tries to hold his teammate behind him for now, and understandably Tyler Long at this point, whilst there are drop scores to consider in this season, when he has already used his effective drop scores, there are 2 of them, 2 rounds are dropped over the course of the season. Well, understandably for Tyler Long, he cannot afford to lose any more points if he can help it, because otherwise he might be on a level playing field going to Sebring the penultimate round, let alone the final round. But he's going to push Trollster as much as he can up the hill here. I think the 2 of them tried to work together for now, but this is not looking good. This is looking backwards rather than forwards to the T0 drivers. We're coming through the right-hander of Druids. Well, meanwhile, we make our way back up to the Gamma leader as the new fastest lap of the race goes to Michael Polasek in the number 1 with Meilleur right behind him, 6 tenths behind. But it is Polasek right now. He's trying to bolt away and become a 54-time winner, and with it, he would take the overall win record of all time. But as Mike Almeida right now holds James Carr behind, well, Carr definitely flying, and Almeida, meanwhile, under a little bit of pressure as they roll off the corner, but looking back from the rear of your Gamma leader. Well, Carr might be quick in the corners, but Almeida has a speed on the straights by comparison. That's just giving him a little bit of an advantage. But of course, coming into another set of fast corners here through Island Bend, now into Shell Oils. And well, Carr also has one other asset the Veloster does not have. The Honda has the strongest brakes of the grid, so therefore he can brake a couple of meters later normally. Whilst it doesn't sound like much, every meter you can brake later to achieve the same apex speed as your rival means that gives you more confidence in the braking zone. It means you can go later and go for the send. That's the most important part. And sending it up the inside of another car here at Oulton Park is how you get moves done. You have to be very much elbows out. And if anybody has tuned into all the compilations of the 1990s Super Touring era around here, you'll know that racing, when it does get intense around Oulton Park, it normally sees multiple cars on the grass at some point, or elbows getting out to the point that nobody knows whose wing mirrors whose anymore. But right now, definitely Mike Almeida wants to keep his wing mirrors as much as possible as they come through Druids. You can see there Hendricks looking for a bit of a move as Carl runs a little bit wide, and here comes Hendricks up the inside. So Hendricks going to go for the move into Lodge Bend. It's going to be a classic move on the inside, but Carl right now trying to outbrake him, but Hendricks says no you don't, and Carl's going to have to settle for losing that place. So they come up the rise. And Carl making his way a little bit wide there, so push it hard. But now the problem is he's got Raymond Tew looking for an opportunity, and the championship leader in Gamma, well, he doesn't need to win today to be moving forward, but what he definitely wants to do is finish on the podium right now with his teammate John Lazot behind the second place man in the championship. And then meanwhile, the other man who they'll be worried about, Dan McFarlane, the third place driver in the championship, is down in 10th at the moment. So therefore, Raymond Tew will be definitely very happy. That's 10th in class, we should point out, or none other than 21st overall. Tew will be very happy right now to know that really he is in a commanding position, even if he's not going to win this race specifically. But coming up towards Island Bend right now, he'll look for some more points if he can. Remember, every place gained overall gains you more points in your class championship as it does in the overall championship. As further back, or more fighting to come. Hold up, there's a car to the grass there. That is going to be Mark Darnell rejoining as Darnell falls down the order, I believe, albeit now he's going to be going further back. That's Corey Lobner, in fact. My apologies, that's not Darnell. Darnell's behind this group, but Corey Lobner's definitely had a bit of an off, and he falls a long way back. He's dropped all the way down to 29th overall coming out of Cascade. And well, Jason Libb, meanwhile, under pressure here from Van Beek, who's all over the back of him like a bad rash. So it does seem as though that number 97 Honda is absolutely on a mission to make progress, and I wonder where the pace was in qualifying, and well, it was not addressed. But meanwhile, coming to John Lauzon, going around the outside there, James Carr, and well, goodness me, James Carr is falling down the order like a stone. In fact, he's lost the place to Raymond Tew as well. I think so, it's going to roll there. Oh, and out wide! That is going to be none other than James Carr, brings himself back on, and I don't know if Carr's got damage to that car, or whether something's breaking inside the car, but that's not characteristic there coming through Druid's bed. He keeps it away from the tyre barrier just about, but James Carr right now, this is not looking good at all. It's going backwards at a rate or not, and after a brilliant qualifying session, race number 1 is far from brilliant by comparison, and I don't think it's through lack of trying, to be fair. I think it might be that something isn't quite right in the car. Evan Clavio, meanwhile, in second place in Delta, 11th overall. We still try to chase after Kurt Smith, albeit Cooper Akers and Zachary Bowman are behind, and Bowman right now would be a pole sitter of race number 2, but Chris McDonald just missing out. But for Chris McDonald, meanwhile, with the pressure of Connor Achitella behind, well, we can understand right now if he's probably thinking to himself in the 85, I need one more place here. If that's going to keep me alive in the Delta Championship to chase down Long, I need every point I can. And given how far back Tyler Long is compared to him right now, and I'm not sure if he'll be aware of it, but he's got to assume it perhaps, well, that's going to give him the confidence he needs here to really attack this for the remainder of the race distance. But as we continue to make our way deeper and deeper into the race, we need to take a look back at some of the big moments from the early stage of the race, ladies and gentlemen. And here we go for a trip back in time with the race start. And as all drivers got underway here, it definitely was one of the more sensible starts that we've seen this season, albeit, to be fair, most of our race starts have been sensible. But Oulton Park always mandates that. It's not really a free-wided turn one, unless you're a bit further back, but it was a solid effort there for Michael Polasek as he got underway, made his way through with Meilleur right behind, and then further back in the field, we did see a couple of 2 wides, and a fan out to a 3 wide further back there, and it definitely got a bit contentious, and Kevin Johnson in the grid machine tried to make his way up the inside of Mitchell Richmeyer, but in the end played it safe, and Zach Hidalgo instead went around the outside and coming down in towards Denton's and Cascade. So that gave Hidalgo the inside there, and Hidalgo with that back of the grid start, making that quick progress. But it went a bit wrong with some other drivers. Matt Shepka had to tow to the pit straight away due to a technical issue with the car, and he started from the very back, and we had this for James Carr on the open lap. So this was a car coming in towards Knickerbrook Corner, and after a great start, well, already things were going slightly wrong as he ran a little bit high on the apex there of that Knickerbrook Corner, and in the end hit the exit curb, and that bounced the car in around. Then we had this happen to Jared Dixon on lap number 2. This was one of the big moments for Dixon towards the back of the field, chasing at the time after his teammate Ovelo Van Beek. And as he made his way in towards that right-hander, well, number 43 driver there crept a bit too far wide, and we'll just trim in the grass, to be fair to him. Nothing too significant. We had this big moment for Carl Trost on lap number 2. This was Trost battling side by side with Zachary Leopold in the battle with the Formula Llama machine, and the T0 Racing Ascend Elantra trying to go around the outside but carried too much speed, found the gravel trap, and in the end just avoided the tyre barrier. Well done to him for taking that evasive action. It could have been far, far worse for him if he got it entirely wrong. We then did have this big moment for none other than Logan McKinzie on lap number 4. And this was McKinzie making his way into Knickerbrook Corner. And I get the feeling this fast right-hander will have caught out several drivers over the course of the day. And will, in the end, having a similar moment to James Carr right towards the start. But thankfully not too bad. And then we had this for Corey Lobner on lap number 5. And well, this definitely was a big one for Lobner. Lost a lot of places here. Coming into Cascade. Broke a bit too late behind. That was Tyler Long getting it wrong. So Long lost the rear of the car there. And that explains what's happened to him. So Lobner just went deep. What exactly happened to Tyler Long? Well, here's a replay of that. And this was Long coming down the hill, too far into the right, and in the end tapped the rear of the Monster Edgy racing machine in front of Mitchell Richmeyer by the looks of things, and Long got it wrong, and in the end as he made it right, well, he lost a lot of places in the fight, and now has got even more work to do. So that's a surprise and not a welcome one for him, as back to your live racing we go. And as we do come back, there's still plenty more time to go in this race, ladies and gentlemen, no doubt about it. And the racing is intensifying little by little. But as all the drivers come on through, well, Michael Polasek right now still leading, bringing Matthew Meilleur with him. But that 54th win of his career is inching closer as we get towards the halfway point. These two clear of Wojciech Swirydowicz, who right now running third. Well, for Swirydowicz at this point, can he get any closer to the top 2? Because they do seem to be just gradually pulling away. Albeit keep in mind, of course, that this race is worth half the points that it would be worth in an endurance race round. The idea is you need to do just as well over both races to get the maximum points that you would in an endurance race event. So therefore, just winning one race is not going to be as good as winning will be an endurance race round. It does mean our drivers have to put in double the effort here to maximise the points, particularly with that top 15, top 13 in version. But Mike Dalmeida, meanwhile, well, he's enjoying a good run here in 5th place with Micah Hendricks behind him, and number 73 driver here trying to poke and probe as much as he can. As he come down in towards Lodge Bend, well, right now, Mike Dalmeida, knowing that if he can hold on to 5th, it'll be great. If he loses his place, well, he's still got a 1.5 second gap to Raymond Tew. Albeit saying that, this lap from Mike Dalmeida at 134.308, Tew at 134.414. So Tew does have the measure of Almeida's pace. They are close to each other, and John Lauzon is with his teammate. So therefore, Dalmeida might be a bit more keen to keep Hendricks behind him, so that way he can force the two Beaver D's drivers to have to work their way past the Croc Promotions machine first. We'll see whether he's going to be able to make that trick a reality, because it's a difficult tactic to pull off, even at Oulton Park. But further back down the order, we've still got plenty of fighting going on inside the top 10 of Gamma, because here's Zachary Leopold looking to try and make a bit more progress forward as we ride on board here with your number 72 driver for Formula Llama. And well, after what was a bit of a difficult start for him, he's been able to get himself back on form, and now he's chased after Connor Achetella for what will be that 7th place in class or 15th overall. Through into Shell Oils they come. You can see how much camber is on the road there. You really do have to have the confidence to abuse that corner, and there's no wonder why. Whether it's Touring Car or British GT, where it's GT3 and GT4 machines, they do race here at this circuit all the way through to, of course, GB3 and GB4 in the Open Wheel Series. That's Formula 3 and Formula 4 of the United Kingdom. This circuit absolutely loved. It does have something for everybody around here. And Leopold right now, well, still staying in the draft there as Achetella. Meanwhile, following McDonald. And Chris McDonald, of course, is the man who needs to go one more place to get into the reverse top 13 grid for race number 2. But the problem is Cooper Akers is 2 seconds up the road from him, and it looks so. Right now, Akers is not wanting to fall back to this group. If anything, it might be that McDonald, in fact, is now starting to pull this group backwards a little bit. Not because he's not pushing hard, but he hasn't quite got the pace of Akers, at least at this time. Into the braking zone, and behind we do see Zach Hodako here looking for a move on Gareth McAllister, and as he comes on through, well, looking up the inside here, and the Monster Energy racing driver in the all black livery, the alternative to what is none other than Rich Meyer's livery. In the end, he's going to be on the outside on exit. He'll be the inside of Deer Leap. This could put him back on the outside for Old Hall Bend, and Zach Hodako tucks right back into here. No, and he hasn't got enough speed compared to that Veloster in the acceleration stakes, but as he comes in towards turn 1, you can see the confidence under braking there from the American driver. That confidence is what gives him the right to try and make moves, but right now we continue to ride aboard on him when he battles for 7th place here in the Delta class. Oh my goodness, that was a bit late on the brakes there for Darko. Even so, hit the bump in the road, and in the end that sent the car out wide there. And well, I think at one moment he's perhaps thinking to himself, do I now need to lift off the brakes and go straight on? Thankfully not quite. He was far enough back from McAllister in the first place not to tap him on the rear, but definitely that was a little bit of a scary moment there, and I can understand if he was thinking to himself, well, I may have just got it wrong. Well, still, he's got it right for now at least, and he'll be hoping he can keep pushing onwards in the Happy Soda machine as he roars his way onwards. But from him, we look back to your leader, on Michael Polasek in the Yellow Flag Motorsport machine. It's still 6/10 of the gap between himself and Matthew Meilleur. These two are really lapping so close to each other right now with 10 minutes to go. Indeed, last lap they were separated by 500ths in the favour of Meilleur. Meanwhile, Swirydowicz is almost matching him. He's a 10th slower on average lap by comparison to Swirydowicz. So these two fight, well, it could definitely prove to be very tight at the front. Meanwhile, we've had a change of places here, as that is Evan Clavio getting ahead of Zachary Bowman for 10th place overall. So the 654 machine. Oh, a little bit of a wobble there sideways coming out of none other than Lodge Bend. I think Bowman pushing hard right now, but Tyre Life is starting to come back towards him. But as they roll the way up towards turn 1, well, he's not too happy about something. I wonder if there's been a bit of contact between the two of them, and if so, that might explain what's happened. But can we get a replay of what exactly happened there? I think we might be able to, ladies and gentlemen. Here we go for a brief trip back in time. How exactly did Evan Clavio pass none other than Zachary Bowman? Well, in fact, no, there was a bit of a precursor to all this. It was James Carr getting it wrong at Druids Bend. So, and then it was not Clavio making the move there. It was Carr getting it wrong, running out wide, and James Carr falling down the order. His woes continue after that incredible qualifying session. And in the end, well, Zachary Bowman just flashing his headlights there. And well, drifted sides, they both drifted. But I think that was Bowman just trying to essentially get into Clavio's head to say, hey, look at me, don't look at the road. So, a bit of a different story from what we thought there, but still brilliant racing between them as we head back to your live pictures. As we come back to the race, there's still plenty of time to make more moves for all these drivers. And, well, as we look back to James Carr being passed now by Cooper Akers, going down in towards Nick Brett Bend. Carr's going backwards, still down to 13th place now. The next place he loses, of course, will put him outside that top 13 inverted grid. It would put him 14th for race number 2, not on pole. And well, I wonder if right now his thought process will be, I need to hold on to this with everything I've got at this point. Well, we'll have to see. As meanwhile, that's going to be Mark Darnell up the inside of Billet Van Beek. That was very close. That was very tight. But to be fair, you've got to do it in that kind of fight. And as they make their way up the hill, well, Darnell right now holding on, as he does pull away a little bit from Billet Van Beek, coming in towards the tower. And well, now through that Druids Bend, you can see that's a big look up the inside, but David Mitchell goes all in. And well, a lovely move there from David Mitchell to make that plays. And right now, I can tell you one thing, it doesn't matter where he starts on this grid, he finds ways to have fun. And well, starting from the pit lane, he's added even more fun to the quotient. But meanwhile, Corey Lobner there looks up the inside of Tyler Long. And well, it's getting very thick and fast in towards the back. Matt Shepker, of course, with that toe to the pits at the start of the race. Due to the technical issue of the car, he was forced to start from the pit lane. And Shepker right now, the man who should have started right towards the front of the field. Well, he's trying to make his way back through it as quickly as he can. Up the inside there, Corey Lobner for 32nd. It was the opening bend. It's the two Hondas side by side. As they're coming out, he'll get that done, and now it's going to be a drag race in towards Denton's between them. I think Lobner on the outside there will gradually let it go, as David Mitchell still holding Darnell at bay, albeit goes very deep there through Cascades. And right now, the Elantra, well, it's got a lot of straight line speed, but that Audi behind him at Darnell is no slouch when it comes to straight line speed. But then David Mitchell now converts himself into 28th place. Billet Van Beek watching behind there. He's hoping he can find a way in. He's going to look around the outside, goes high here at Shell Hills. You can do that and look for the cut down. You essentially V-shape the approach and you use the camber of the road to slingshot your way onto the back of the car in front. But then he did find himself being concertinaed up there by Darnell and therefore could not carry as much momentum as he would have liked to. But whilst all that is happening, well, meanwhile, we do look a little bit further up the road shortly, because I do believe things are getting a bit fierce between Jared Cowlins and John Daniels. And here they are. In fact, Daniels breaking away there, as Cowlins has got Dan McFarlane looking up the inside of him. More bit McFarlane not close enough there to go for the move. A bit of a Lantra on Lantra action. And coming out to turn 11. Well, Jared Cowlins right now knowing that his ability to chase down Chris McDonald is being compromised. He's got 3 Gammas in front of him and 1 very cheeky Gamma behind him. And for Dan McFarlane, well, the reason he's got to be cheeky here is because right now this result is not a good one in his championship campaign. He would essentially really relegate himself into that 3rd place spot that he currently holds in the Gamma Championship, but he would be at risk of losing significant ground to Tio Lauzon if the result goes the way it does now in race 1. And in race number 2, we see a similar result occur. So that's going to be his worry at this point as they make the way onwards towards Island Bend with 5 minutes or so to go, which means we do have approximately another 3 laps after this one. But pressure is building for McFarlane and he's running out of time. Zach Hadarka a bit further back, running out of time to make a move on Gareth McAllister. He takes a look to the inside, it's Island Bend. That's too far back. That's not going to happen. And, well, meanwhile, he finds himself sandwiched there by the Monster Energy racing machines with Rich Meyer behind still. And they're enjoying a good little scrap as Matt Shepka, he's over the rear bumper of Tyler Long. And we're coming up towards that hairpin. He's got to look around the outside here. Can he do something a bit dastardly? And, well, Shepka here goes high. It comes down low in the end. And look at the speed he carries off the corner. Literally glued to that rear bumper of Long's car. But the problem is the see you driver right now can't say see you later because he hasn't got the straight line speed. He's going to try and drag race his way past here, heading down the back stretch. And, well, you can see in front Billy Van Beek. He's not dumb. He's playing smart. He's given the toe to both drivers. He wants them to fight in towards Knickerbrook corner. 2 wide they go in. And in the end, as they emerge the way out, where they are going to make it, and in the end Shepka makes a brilliant move around the outside there. Tyler Long, to be fair, had to give him the racing room to do it. It required compliance, but Shepka in the end showed he's got nerves of steel and makes his way to 30th place. What a move from him, and Tyler Long, to be fair, racing as firm and fair as he could. And whilst all that's been happening, well, meanwhile we've got change of foot towards the front into turn 1. That's Leopold up the inside of McDonald. McDonald's has dropped down. I think something's gone wrong for McDonald because he's lost multiple places here and he's going to lose a place to John Daniels. Daniels trying to make the move on him, but right now Chris McDonald defending on the inside of Cascade. He's in the ideal place here to hold the position, but the problem is on corner exit that Velocitor's got the toe of Leopold in front, and Jared Cowlins is in on this. We've also got Agitella towed to the pits. I'm not quite sure what's happened to him, but it's all chop and change here right now. And, well, we'll have to get a replay of that when we can. But as McDonald tries to keep Cowlins at bay, well, he's plugging the place. Dan McFarlane tries to go around the outside there, Cowlins. It's all absolutely kicking off towards the bottom end of the top 15. And particularly for 13th place right now, with James Carr holding to that place and Zachary Leopold then 3 seconds behind. And then you've got this long run of cars as Swirydowicz originally now finds his way into this. We haven't really talked about him today so far. And now Sonny, he's arrived on the scene here and immediately goes around the outside of Dan McFarlane, who decides to tuck back in there, knowing that 2 wide into Knickerbrook corner is going to cost you way too much time. But once we have got a little bit of time, let's see if we can find out what exactly happened only moments ago. Started off with the big incident for Connor Agitella. So this was Agitella battling at the time with Chris McDonald coming through Watertower in towards Druids. He was on the inside. Oh, the rear of the car snapping loose there. I don't know if there was contact between the 2 of them, but Agitella unfortunately to the gravel and into the tyre barrier, and that was his race at a halt. And, well, can we get the on board with regards to that? I think we might be able to. This is what it looked like on board with Chris McDonald, who had gone wide initially at Knickerbrook corner, so Agitella had some momentum here. And into the corner, let's listen. And I think there might have been the tiniest of touches between the 2 of them. But to be fair, McDonald did not do anything to essentially trigger that touch. That's just where the 2 converged into 1 at the corner. And unfortunately, Agitella cut it very close and cut it a bit too close by looks things. That's that camera angle on what it says. But of course, there's multiple different camera angles. And if it does go to the stewards, well, there'll be plenty of stories about that. But that's how Chris McDonald has then subsequently lost the places. Back to live racing we go. And as we do, ladies and gentlemen, here's Swirydowicz right now with only 2 minutes left on the clock, still trying to push on. And once he does so in number 18-9, there's still more work to be done. And for all these drivers right now, well, this race is not over until they see that finish line. It sounds obvious, but they've got to keep pushing. And here comes Cooper Akers looking up the inside of Evan Clavio for 11th place. He's going to go for into Knickerbrook corner. They're all definitely getting their teeth and fangs baring now. And, well, can Akers get this done here? This is going to be a recreation, essentially, of the McDonald-Agitella battle any moments ago. It's going to be 2 wide on in. And in the end, we can see there, Akers could not come across. He wanted to cut across what Agitella tried to do on Chris McDonald. It did not work, and Clavio, sticking to his guns, was able to hold on. But meanwhile, at the front of the field, let's not forget this. Polasek, who was leading by 0.6 of a second, that gap has been halved over the last 4 laps. And now Meilleur is right behind him as they come down the hill. As these drives go nose to tail, Wojciech Swirydowicz Meilleur still 1.5 seconds back. He can't quite get involved at the moment. It's not that he doesn't want to, as he decides to sample the grass trimmings there going out of Cascade. But the problem of the matter is he just hasn't got the pace to stay with the two in front as much as he's pushing and trying. But Polasek right now, and in these closing stages, well, he's got told he's got this lap plus one more, we believe, giving us a minute left on the clock as they come through Shell Oil's Bend. It's going to be very close here for a final lap in terms of whether it's going to be 16 or 17, but I suspect we are going to see a 17th tour of the circuit by about 5 to 10 seconds. We're going down the back straight here, and Meilleur right now, what can he do to get the job done? When it's not on the straights that he can beat that Veloster, we know that, but in the corners, the Honda is looking the more capable car by comparison, and through the right hand they go right now as Shepka back into the pit lane for some reason. We're not quite sure why, but Shepka has returned to the pit. I wonder if perhaps there's not enough fuel in the car, because we haven't heard there's been an instant for him of description. But as we do continue to focus on the leaders here, we're going to stay with them for a little bit longer. We need to know whether we're going to get another lap or not before we leave them alone, because otherwise we could be seeing the finish here. But Michael Polasek right now holding on. And, well, Meilleur looking up the inside there. Can't quite find it. 10 seconds left on the clock. This is the final lap, ladies and gentlemen. As Michael Polasek makes his way out the final quarter, he's going to take home his 54th overall win of his career and become the all-time record winner as he crossed the line ahead of Matthew Meilleur takes second. Wojciech Swirydowicz will lose that record by finishing third ahead of Logan McKinzie, who takes fourth place. And it'll be Mike De Almeida who takes the Gamma win there for Yellow Flag Motorsports. What a win from him ahead of Micah Hendricks. Raymond Hugh takes second in Gamma ahead of teammate John Lauzon for Beaver and Dees. It's a double podium, and Kurt Smith for breakfast for dinner finishes with the Delta win in 9th overall ahead of Zachary Bowman. Cooper Akers takes home 11th ahead of Evan Clavio, and James Carr in the end, he may have fell down the order, but he's going to take overall pole for the final race of the day. Zachary Leopold just fell short, 14th ahead of John Daniels. Chris McDonald finishes off the Delta podium there in 16th place ahead of Jared Cowlins and third hour originally, with Dan McFarlane and Major Montsavai completing your top 20. We've got a few more drives to finish their races, ladies and gentlemen. Let's see them home with David Mitchell there coming across the line in 26th place there, and just ahead of Carl Trost with Mark Darnell, Corey Lobner and Spencer Clark round off the top 30, and then it will be Matt Shepka very shortly coming on home. And well, what a change of day it's been for him after such a brilliant qualifying performance. As we do see Clark there in the foreground of the picture, and in the end, Shepka just behind his fellow Sia car. Well, Shepka in the end definitely said Sia to his chances of a win in this first race of the day with the pit lane start, but a technical issue blighted him, and well, he's had put on a brilliant fight to move to 31st, even if he did have to come back into the bits once again. Jeremy Barber seeing himself in 32nd ahead of Billy Van Beek, and then we did see Kevin Johnson become your last finisher of this race, albeit he is listed as a lap down right now, but he's still to finish this one. We have had a finish already for Jared Dixon, who takes 35th on his debut, or 18th in the Delta class. Well done to him for that. Tyler Long, intriguingly, finishing in 36th as classified. He's had to come into the pit lane at the end of the race as Long, so it's gone very backwards for him. He's been classified as 2 laps down. So the 767 driver, the Delta Championship leader, the woe continues to pile up for him, but we do just wait now for Kevin Johnson's Grim Machine to make its way onwards. And, well, a little bit of history with regards to the livery on the car. I do believe, when I caught up with him only early this week, he was saying to me the fact that this is a livery that he's worked on. The original design being put together by a different designer, but this is a livery that he's put on the car himself and worked hard on. And he makes his way into the pits, knowing that 34th is going to be the best he can achieve in this one. But, of course, we've got plenty more racing to come in race number 2, ladies and gentlemen. It's only a few corners away. But as all of our drivers make their way to the pit lane, we now do have, of course, the 5-minute warm-up period, and that gives us the perfect opportunity to warm you up while letting you know how the drivers finished in race number 1, subject to any stewards' inquiries. And here are those provisional results. And as we can see, after a brilliant 25 minutes of racing to open up our account in round number 8 of season 16 of the Alpha Touring Challenge here from Oulton Park today, Michael Polasek taking his 54th career win of the season for Yellow Flag Motorsport, and that championship lead continues to stand strong, at least for now, ahead of SRG's Matthew Meilleur. Meilleur pushed him hard and was with him all the way to the end, and I get the feeling Meilleur may have been hoping there would have been one extra lap, because you could see it in the body language of the car. He was building up to something, but time ran out on him. Third place went to Wojciech Swirydowicz there for breakfast or dinner. Couldn't quite stay with the top 2 to stay in the fight, but he could keep them in eyesight. And then Logan McKinzie finished fourth for Pennzoil Super Touring, a further 5.5 seconds behind. Mike De Almeida took home the Gamma win there in 5th place. Well done to him for Yellow Flag Motorsports. A brilliant drive from your number 6 driver, ahead of Micah Hendricks, who took 6th place for Crop Promotions. He was only 4 tenths behind, but a whole second ahead of your 2nd and 3rd place finishes in the Gamma class, and that was Raymond Hugh for Beaver and Dees and his teammate John Lauzon. Kurt Smith took 9th, but more importantly for him, his Delta win. And indeed, what a win from him for Brett Verstappen. He was absolutely flying in this race after that brilliant pole position in qualifying. And it was Zachary Bowman who took 10th place there for Pennzoil Super Touring, ahead of his teammate of Cooper Akers, who after the non-start at Mexico will be very happy with that 11th place finish and 5th in the Gamma class. Evan Clavio took the run-up spot in Delta, 12th overall for Sim Racing Grid, working hard for it, just ahead of James Carr, who slipped down the order, but managed to arrest the rot at 13th place, so he will be your pole sitter for race number 2. And the Brett Verstappen driver in the end was 4 seconds ahead of Zachary Leopold, who in the end had to fend off the rest of the pack for the rest of the top 20 behind him. And the Formula 1 driver had to hold off John Daniels for T0 Racing Summit, Chris McDonald, your 3rd place finisher in the Delta class there for Gator Racing. Jared Kalnins was hot on his heels in 17th, and also Eshart G's Fred Ridgely, who climbed his way up to a 5th place finish in the Delta class. Well done to him in his Honda. That was hard going for him. We then did see in 19th Dan McFarlane for Sim Racing Grid, making gradual progress through the field, but knowing there's still more work to be done. And Major Monsavite as well coming through with him. The two started together towards the back of the field, and both of them there ended up finishing together, and they will start in the same row once again for race number 2, albeit further rather than further back. Then we do look behind them and rounded off the run to 21st. It was then none other than Jason Breen ahead of Gareth McAllister, with Zach Hodako in the end finding himself sandwiched between the Monster Energy Racing machines, and Mitchell Richmond was right behind. Jason Lynn took 25th for Gator Racing, went off midway through the race, cost him some valuable places. Damon Mitchell, after his pit lane start, made his way through to 26th there for Croc Promotions, and then Carl Trost taking 27th ahead of Mark Darnell, with Corey Lobner and Spencer Clark round off your top 30. Behind the senior machine, it was then his teammate Matt Shepka. That result not reflective of what he's brought to the table so far today, and he'll be hoping that race number 2 is going to be much more straightforward, but he knows he's got a lot of ground to make. And then it'll be Jeremy Barber in 32nd ahead of Billy Van Beek, enjoyed some brilliant battling midway through the race, and in the end it was a sizable gap to Kevin Johnson, who was last of your classified finishers of the race on the lead lap. The priority was then followed up by Jared Dixon, the Zimbabwean driver on his debut, not having quite the debut he wanted, but still a lap down and got to the finish. That's the most important thing. And then Tyler Long, what an end to his race in the end, finishing none other than 2 laps down for T0 Racing. We didn't see quite what happened to him, but what we do know is that it's all gone wrong. Con Ashton the same there, 3 laps down after his moment with the barrier at Druids Bend after that contact between himself and Chris McDonald. Innocent contact, to be fair. That's going to be a very hard one for the Stewards to work through, I suspect, if it gets reported, but they'll need a lot of camera angles for it, and they've got the angles that we don't. And then we do see the retirements there for Joseph Heath and also Angel Bonilla Soto to complete your 39 car finishing order. But that was race number 1, ladies and gentlemen. And the great news is we've got another race to come. We are not too far away for our second and final race of the day here at the Oulton Park International Circuit. Remember, of course, this is our final sprint race round of the season. After this, we've got 2 60-minute endurance races to come to wrap up everything and see the season done. But right now, who exactly will feel as though their season has been done by well, and who exactly will be feeling as though they've still got a bit more work to do? Well, the warm-up is complete, ladies and gentlemen. It's time to head to the grid and see how they all line up for race number 2. And as all our drivers make the way onto the grid, well, here's how they're going to start for our second and final race of the day. It is going to be James Carr who takes pole position for breakfast for dinner. He will be joined on that front row by Evan Clavio, the Delta pole sitter behind the Gamma pole sitter. We then do have from the Sim Racing grid driver Cooper Akers of Pennzoil Super Touring ahead of Zachary Bowman, his teammate alongside. It could be a good result potentially coming the way of Pennzoil Super Touring, and if they achieve this, they could expand their championship lead in the team's championship, because it's almost even now between the two teams after race number 1. Kurt Smith starts second of your Deltas for breakfast dinner, but looking to make it 2 from 2 here today in the Delta class. The Canadian in the company, his fellow countryman of Beaver and Dees, John Lauzon on the 3rd row. Starting in 7th place, the 4th row, it's Raymond Hugh for Beaver and Dees ahead of Micah Hendricks for Croc Promotions. And then we do see Mike de Almeida for Yellow Flag Motorsport, head of Pennzoil Super Touring's Logan McKinzie completing that top 10. Outside the top 10 in 11th place, it's going to be Wojciech Swirydowicz for breakfast dinner, hoping that whilst he didn't have the pace in race 1 to stay with Meilleur or Polasek, he can stay ahead of him in this one. But Meilleur will join him on that 6th row for CS Yacht G, as I get the team name right there, goodness me, making sure not to slip into old habits here, I do apologise. And then we do have Michael Polasek there in 13th place for Yellow Flag Motorsport, rounding off that inversion. And then 14th, he couldn't quite make his way into the top 13 inversion, but expecting to fight his way forward, it's going to be Zachary Leopold in the Audi from Formula Llama. We then do have John Daniels behind him on what is 15th for T0 Racing Summit, ahead of Chris McDonald for Gator Racing, and that 3rd place is going to feel a very far away in the Delta class from the leading 2, but he'll have plenty of company, of course, because behind him is going to be an all-Delta row of Jared Kalnins and Fuad Ridgely. Behind the Eshart G driver, it's then going to be Dan McFarlane for Sim Racing Grid, ahead of Major Monsavai, who completes your top 20, and outside that top 20, well, of course, we do have 21st, Jason Breen for Sim Racing Grid, ahead of Monster Energy Race's Gareth McAllister, with the Monster Energy Racing cars being split by Zach Hodako. Then on row number 13, it's going to be Jason in for Gator Racing, ahead of Crop Promotions' Damon Mitchell. He's going to look to make his way forward. How far could he go in this one? He picked up a lot of place in race 1. I suspect we'll be seeing him inside the top 15 by the end of this one. And then we'll see Carl Trost just behind him there for TCR Racing Ascent, falling backwards over race distance, and Mark Darnell will be giving him company out on row 14. Behind the Gator Racing drive, it's going to be Corey Lobner and Spencer Clark, and the Sia driver will then be followed up by none other than Matt Shepka for Sia, who starts 31st, but knows he's got all the work to do. And it's going to be Jeremy Barber for Monster Energy Racing ahead of Bilev and Beek, with Kevin Johnson there taking home 34th in race number 1. Can he make it further? Can he get into the top 30 in this one? He will have none other than what will be Jared Dixon starting 35th behind. Tyler Long there, keep your eyes out for him. This is really going to be a do or die race for Tyler Long at this point, in the 767 for T0 Race of Ascent. And the final full ride of the grid is going to be Connor Achitella for Yellow Flag Motorsport, with a car repaired for this one, we believe, head of none other than Joseph Heath, and it will be Angel Bonilla Soto. Rounded off your 39 starters for Mid-Pack Mafia. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that is the grid. They're all set, they're all itching to go one more time today, and as the lights do come on for the second and final race, well, it's going to be 5 red lights, and it's lights out, and away we go here for race number 2 at the Oulton Park International Circuit. And as they all make the way away, well, James Carr right now leads the field down in towards turn 1. It's been a good start from him, but right now, can he hold on to it coming into the latter portion of the lap? Behind Taku Bowen, immediately on the attack here versus Kurt Smith, making sure to keep Smith at bay. A couple of cars run a bit wide there into the weeds, and that was going to be none other than, I do believe, well, Mike Dalmeida being one of the ones who ran wide, most definitely, but coming down in towards Cascades right now. It's going to be 2 by 2 by 2 as they come. But all these drives right now push each other as we lose Almeida for a brief moment, but we do, well, in fact, hopefully we do get him back. We do get him back in the end. I was going to say, that's a heart in mouth moment there. If you're a fan of Yellow Flag Motorsports, you don't want to see him drop out the order. But as they all come charging through Island Bend right now, well, things are getting fierce, they're getting fighty, and we can see there John Lauzon and Kurt Swift definitely get bitey to each other, as in the end, Lauzon cleared Smith, and Logan McKinzie now is all over the back of him. But right on the way on out, well, the top 5 have been left unchanged, but everywhere else is starting to change up as further back. And Jason Lynn, he's had a great start. He's moved up into 25th place. He's already moved ahead of Art Darnell, who's got Mitchell Richby behind him, and Richby on the attack here as they make their way onwards. It's a drag race here, and right now it's going to be the Audi on one side versus what is the Veloster on the other, and the Veloster of Richby there looking the quicker compared to the Audi, given the fact it has got the draft of Lynn's car to work with. And in the end, Mark Darnell has to back off there before Knickerbrook quarter. 2 wide only works if you're both going to commit to breaking down the speed, and I do believe there Richby was not going to back off at all, and Mark Darnell did have to back off as a result. Hold up, what's happened to James Carr? Carr's gone out wide there at Druids, and Druids has bitten him once again. Well, right now, the anciently named quarter has definitely made James Carr's days feel ancient this race, because it's all gone backwards, and the chances of a win have been set back in time, as he drifts wide there, coming in towards what was Lodge Bend, and for James Carr, it's all gone wrong, and it's all gone long into the grass. Meanwhile, well, you see Mike Dalmeida still pushing forward, even if he's got some technical issues with the car, but he's trying to push on. And meanwhile, Gareth McAllister right now a bit further back, fighting with further hour. Originally, McAllister has had an incredible start to this race, but he's not going to have an incredible start for much longer. If he runs wide out of turn 1 like that, that's going to be a slowdown penalty, I suspect. He's going to lose out Ridgely, but he's had one of the best starts of the Delta drivers. Dan McFarlane's right behind him, but not for long as McFarlane goes sideways. Oh my goodness, and that's going to be Zach Hidalgo trying to go all the way around the outside. He gets it wrong, and another car goes on as well. Who exactly is that taking a trip? And I think that is going to be one of the other SRG machines. Couldn't quite see who it was, but it's definitely gone wrong for them. Once they all get it back together, well, meanwhile, Mitchell Richby moves on as Jason Breen has been towed to the pits. Dan McFarlane, I think the David G's picked up, he might be towed to the pits as well. Yes, he is. It's all gone wrong for so many of those drivers. For Dan McFarlane, this might be the round that finally seals the deal that he is no longer in reach of the Gamma crowd. So that's not the way he wants it to end. And whilst all that's been happening, well, at the front of the field, Evan Clavio has taken the lead of the race. You couldn't make this up. It's all exploded to life here right now around Little Bloodworth as they roar the way onwards. And Evan Clavio leads ahead of Cooper Akers. Now, can he hold on here for what would be not just a Delta class win, but also a Delta overall win? With so, this would be an absolutely huge moment. And remember, Oulton Park is not an easy circuit to overtake at, albeit Mike Dalmeida and Matthew Meilleur right now demonstrated exactly how you do overtake. And it requires commitment and love between two drivers, as Cooper Akers meanwhile diving around what is the outside there versus Clavio in towards Lodge Bend. And Clavio trying to hold on here as we ride aboard, looking back for the rear of your race leader. Now the Sim Racing Grid driver here, of course, he's got to use every little bit of nuance here in order to be able to hold on. As Meilleur, the fastest driver after 2 laps, he's up into 10th place. He was able to clear. Was the Almeida in the end who's been relegated backwards? There's been a big instant further down the order. We are going to get a replay of that shortly, and I do believe Jeremy Barber's got ahead of Tyler Long as a result of it. But Clavio right now. Hold yours. We look back for the rear of your race leader. But understandably, in his mind right now, he's going to be absolutely sweating as they roar the way in towards turn number 4. 9, he's got to hold on. And remember, it's not right now that's important. It's as the race goes deeper and deeper when tyre wear becomes a bigger thing. But we do know the Elantra, of course, does have the worst tyre wear of them all if you're not able to manage the tyres effectively. Car to the grass there. That is going to be a rejoining Kurt Smith. Smith's taking a bit of a trip. Thankfully, he's not gone straight on there either, Bex. If you do, you end up going straight into Shell Oil's corner typically. And Michael Polasek right now on the back of Meilleur and Swirydowicz. Swirydowicz is making himself as wide as humanly possible in that Honda. And he needs to here right now. If he wants to pick up some big points, he needs to stop the two behind him from getting on through. He goes defensive towards Knickerbrook corner, and he says to Meilleur here, look, I'm now going to creep over. You're going to have to deal with this. Polasek thinks about the move, and for Michael Polasek, well, understandably, he wants to get this championship wrapped up as quick as he can. If he can get himself into the top 3 in this race, then going to Sebring next time out, it will be a formality, or we'll need some decent points for his rivals not to have a perfect day, and he will take the crown around early, effectively. So right now, Michael Polasek, 9, that he needs to get the job done here today if he wants to give himself the easiest coast towards a 5th championship crowd. Meanwhile, at the front, that is going to be Zachary Bowman up the inside of Cooper Akers. Akers in the end escorted out wide. Here comes Hendricks up the inside as they make their way down towards turn 1. Raymond Hughes in the queue now, so Hughes hoping he can find a way in. And Cooper Akers right now has been muscled down to the point that the championship leader of the Gamma class, well, here he's got John Niles on 2 places behind, but this could also be a round whereby Raymond Hughes goes to Sebring 9. He doesn't need to win anymore. All he needs to do is make a consistent result out of things and finish inside the top 10 overall, and he'd be heading to the season bloody on top scores. But meanwhile, that's Cooper Akers running out wide there. We briefly lose him. There he goes, and as he rolls his way back onto the circuit, Akers has gone wide at Cascade, so he falls down the order. So right now, it's all happening everywhere you look inside the top 15, and even outside of it, Swirydowicz Ridgely carries on there, battling with John Daniels, and they're fighting over 16th place, but Daniels sweeps around the outside of him there, and now Ridgely in the end decides to back off there. 9, it's not worth the risk, not this early on. But goodness me, so much happening in the opening 5 minutes, ladies and gents, but there's still even more happening, as that's going to be Spencer Clark up the inside of Jeremy Barber, powering the way down Lakeside and in towards Island Bend. So Clark moves up into 15th and Delta 30th overall, and Barber going a little bit slow at the moment. I wonder whether perhaps he's got an issue with the car. But as they end their battle for a brief moment, well, let's take a quick look back at some of the big moments in the start of this race, ladies and gentlemen. And we do start, of course, with none other than what was the big moment, I do believe, for Mike Dalmeida on the opening lap. So this was coming down towards turn 1 as they went green flag racing. Mike Dalmeida in the end, while the many drivers who went wide here, but he was the most prominent one. Almost a free wide there, take the little bit of trip, but in the end was able to bring himself back on, but that enabled some confidence for what was the car in front of him of none other than Logan McKinzie as they all came down in towards Cascade. But as they all cascaded the way on through, we then had this big moment for James Carr. Now James Carr, of course, who started right towards the front of the field, was he made his way. He was leading comfortably as well on the open lap. Made his way into Drids, took too much grass on entry, and it sent him sideways, and he managed to avoid the barrier, but in losing all that speed and time, he fell all the way down the order, and that would be absolutely gutting for him when he did eventually arrive back on the scene. We then had this big month for Major Monsavai and Zach Hidalgo on lap number 2. And this was Monsavai making his way down in towards Cascade. And as he did so, Hidalgo was a bit further back, we believe. There he was in the rear of the picture. So Monsavai came on through. Too much speed, too much confidence. But to be fair, he just powered on through. As meanwhile, it all went wrong for Hidalgo and McFarlane behind. This was an alternative camera shot of their incident, which we caught. And just in front, and we believe that was the car of none other than, well, it wasn't Damon Mitchell's car there, but it was 2 SRG machines going together. Oh, my good Lord. And all of them coming together in a very short period of time. Jason Breen being caught up in that. And it all went wrong for them. And a nightmare moment there, no doubt about it. And well, McFarlane and Breen both turned to bits as Hidalgo was able to carry on. We then had this for Mark Darnell toward the end of lap 2. This was coming in towards Lodge Bend. Side by side they went, and this was a big instant, we believe. Now, what you say happened? There was a car in the grass there. Who was that? They all got caught up. I think that was the car of Jared Dixon there that ended up going sideways, and well, it really was a traffic jam suddenly. So the danger Doritos that we saw on the cheat sheet definitely paying dividends. And well, it was all into the pits there for Mark Darnell as quick as that. And then we had this big moment only moments late on lap number 4 for Cooper Akers. And well, this was the mother of all mistakes coming in towards Cascades. In amongst the pack, chasing after Micah Hendricks. Went onto the brakes, touched the grass, ended up in the gravel. He avoided the tyre barrier just about. But in the end, we briefly lost him and he rematerialised and still was carrying on his rejoining journey. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we head back to your live race and we've still got a long journey to go. And And as we do come back, there's still plenty more racing here, and we've still got 17 minutes or so to see how it all unfolds. But right now, what do you need to know? What you need to know is right at the front, Evan Clavio is still holding on. However, the Gammas are giving way to the Alphas now. Zachary Bowman, the last was the Gamma Fortress that is sitting behind Clavio, and then you have got Hendricks. He's going to be the first one. And for Micah Hendricks right now, this is definitely going to feel as though he's got to pick his way past little by little, as Raymond will be pushing him on. But here comes Bowman looking for a move. Oh, there's contact between the two of them, and in the end they come through. Let's get it up into the air there for none other than Zachary Bowman. The car being turned on around, and I think there was some elbows out between the two of them there, but in the end, well, I think it might have gone more than elbows out, and after that, I wonder if it was the bump in the road, plus also the fact the circuit did gradually go from the curve to a straight, and it's just upset both cars a little bit. We'll have to get a replay of that when we can, but Zachary Bowman falling all the way down the order, and well, goodness me, not the way they wanted it to go at all, and that gives me flashbacks to what we Jason Plato and Matt Neal, if I remember correctly, all the way back in not in 1998, I think it was in 2001, where they had a massive coming together over the hilltop. Well, I might have got the drivers wrong, but I know there's a huge jump between several drivers, well, it's two drivers in particular coming down over hilltop in the BTCC, and well, that was definitely very similar to that, but Hendricks makes his way on towards another lap. All right, now we've still got 10 minutes plus the final lap to go, and Hendricks now finds himself in that comfortable lead, as meanwhile to you, the Gamma leader now into second place. Well, at this point, of course, if you can make it another second place here today, you'll be absolutely grinning like the Cheshire Cat. And Hendricks, of course, will be the key to unlocking what could be even a victory overall for him. And Mathieu definitely is going to try and see if he can make that happen, but Logan McKinzie is watching this from behind. Meanwhile, in terms of the trio, of course, who led the way in the opening race of the day, Swirydowicz is still ahead of Meilleur and Polasek, and he has been able to put Lauzon between himself and the two other Alphas. So Swirydowicz here definitely finding a bit more pace in this second race by comparison. But of course, that is the nature of the battling at Oulton Park as well, which could become a bit of an increasing factor around here. But further down the order, John Daniels, he's in the scramble here, as that's 2 by 2 almost, as they make the way towards none other than Island Ben. But Nelson can't let down. And we'll understand, I think both of these drivers right now, both himself and Shepka, knowing there are places to be gained, and Damon Mitchell as well, definitely trying to make his way onwards as much as he can. And well, I do wonder what our drivers were thinking when they made the way on around and did see Mitchell's car and seeing my face all over the car, ladies and gentlemen. And I do wonder whether that's made them grin a little bit and perhaps distracted them. Perhaps that's part of the master plan for Damon Mitchell. If you can't beat them, distract them in the braking zones, and therefore they'll completely make a mess of it. Well, to be fair, if I can be a good distraction, well, I'll make the most handsome distraction I can. I promise you that, ladies and gentlemen. But excuse my modesty, as we do see David Mitchell right now holding Max Shepka at bay, and Shepka definitely not being distracted there as they roll the way up towards Druids once again. John Daniels, meanwhile, he falls a little bit further back, and meanwhile, whilst that's happened, Wojciech Swirydowicz up the inside of Evan Clavio coming through Lodge Bend. So that's going to be Swirydowicz now into 4th. Clavio, your Delta leader, still leads the class quite comfortably. Kurt Smith is in 11th, the second of the classmates. And right now for Clavio, well, he's got the opportunity here to let himself fall down the order. The only thing I wonder is he now worried about a post-race time penalty that would be applied by the stewards after the racing is complete if he is found at fault with regards to that contact we saw between himself and Zachary Bowman. We are going to need a replay of that, and we have got one queued up, so we will be cutting that in due time. But right now, as our lead group all come together, well, the top three are 1.5 seconds away from this group, but understandably, McKinzie, Thieu and Hendricks, they rise from third to first. They will all start to battle each other, and that is going to suddenly bring the entire top 11 back together towards the end of the race. At least that's going to be our prediction. But further down the order, Mark Darnell and Zach Hodalko, they may have both had difficult starts to this race, but they're still enjoying a little bit of scrap with each other as they make their way onwards. And, well, hold the phone on that, because we have lost Evan Clavio. There is Clavio. We leave him for literally a brief moment, and at the corner where it went wrong between him and Zachary Bowman, well, right now, that corner has bitten him once again. So Hibbs Bend has hurt him hard, but what exactly is it done? Well, exactly what has happened to make that happen? Well, I do wonder, as meanwhile, we come back to the front of the field, and Raymond Thieu now all over the back of Logan McKinzie. McKinzie has found his way on past. So as soon as we leave this lead group for a moment, Sonny all erupts, and thankfully we do have the power of replays or two to be able to find out what exactly is going on. But right now for McKinzie and Thieu, well, the number 96 driver here will be a bit gutted he can't stay with Hendricks. I think Logan McKinzie, however, has got other ideas, and Wojciech Swirydowicz is the next one who'll be knocking on the Beaver and D's driver's door. We're going on to the next lap. Once they do, Matthew Meilleur behind, now looking for a move up the inside of John Lauzon, but Lauzon still not forthcoming, and understandably Meilleur does not want to go for this move through the risk of losing out to Michael Polasek as he runs a bit wide, and Polasek right now on the attack here as they come down through 2 in towards 3, and the Yellow Flag Motorsport driver looking one way then the other, and we're coming down through the long Cascades corner here. Now can Polasek get a good run? Yes he can, as Meilleur's going to go to the inside. He's in fact going to back off, and I think let Polasek take the position. I think he realises that right now, Polasek is going to become an inevitability, but I think you have the confidence that you might know how to beat Polasek when he's in front. We saw him getting more and more confident towards the end of race 1, and therefore I think he's essentially tossed things over to Polasek and said, you know what, I'll let you have the problem of dealing with John Lauzon, and I'm going to take it back from you later. Be ready for that. I'm not leaving you be. And Polasek right now will be shrugging his shoulders in the car and saying to Matthew, well, thank you, Matthew, I'll take that, and well, you're not going to catch up to me towards the end. He's got to have that confidence. He's got to believe in himself, which he does. Meanwhile, 2 wide here between Mitchell and Monsivais as the Hot Wheels machine right now. Definitely pedaling on as quick as it can. It's got the toe there of Gareth McAllister in the distance. So in the battle of 2 Elantras here, the slipstream is going to be the difference, plus the setup of the car. And coming down in towards Knickerbrook here. Well, will Monsivais hold it this time around outside? Yes, he will. David Mitchell takes a lot of apex curve, but they both show you can go too wide. Shepka, meanwhile, really stomping out the corner and making his way out there. Oh my good lord! Up on the 2 wheels, and that's not how you take Clay Hill. The guy hits the barrier there, and the Matt Shepka, he was going to go all in for it, but then that's going to cause the front left suspension to be very heavily hurt. And I think the front right is completely dropped away, and Shepka is into the pit lane. Shepka's damage is absolutely incurable without a toe, and unfortunately for Shepka right now, what was looking to be absolute heroics have ended up in hysterics. Will be not the right ones down the pit lane for him and the senior team, and I can imagine right now they're not going to be too impressed with the fact that's another broken car for Shepka, and well, he'll be looking to try and pick things back together before Sebring next time out. But as we do see Cooper Akers looking to go after Jared Cownin, so right now for him it's about trying to get away from Zachary Bowman behind, and Bowman of course was at one point trying to lead the race overall and in Gamma, but that contact between himself and none other than what was, excuse me, at the time, our Delta leader, Evan Clavio, really being the difference between the two of them. And in terms of what exactly happened between them, well, we do look a move here from Zachary Bowman up the inside of Akers. Can he get it done? The answer is yes, just about. But of course, a slight technical blip there from what was Cooper Akers. And I think Bowman's intention lifted off a little bit on the exit. He doesn't know where his rival's going to be, and he flashes headlights down. I think that's him saying to him, you do realise you are blinking, and that's where essentially his connectivity is cutting in and out. But of course, in the middle of the race, you just have to roll with what you got. I think Bowman decided to play things as safe as possible. But meanwhile, Michael Polasek right now can't afford to play it safe as they come down in towards Druids. Looking at the inside there versus Lauzon. And right now, Polasek showing you ways a 4-time champion. He gets his elbows out, but it's still racers. They make the way up towards Lodgebane, but in the end, Polasek does squeeze on through. Nice move there from the number 1 driver, and he's earned that one the hard way in the past. And he's going to try and hold on to it as Matthew Meilleur, meanwhile, now queues up behind him. Now he's got to pass John Lauzon, who is going to be a bit of a brick wall to find his way on through, and Almeida and Leopold are behind. But as we briefly lose them, we take a trip back in time for some of the big moments, including firstly what exactly happens to Zachary Bowman and Evan Clavio. So this was their big moment, making the way through Hislop's Bend, and the camera angle not too flattering. Ooh, good speed. There's a small tap between them, and I think in the end that tap unsettled Clavio's car, and that's why he did come back towards what was Bowman's. It's a very hard one to call there. The stewards will definitely have to look at the steering angles of both cars and see what paths they were on, but Zachary Bowman really coming off the worst of it all. But understand me there, he'll be absolutely fuming at that one. We then did have this big moment for Evan Clavio a bit later on lap number 8. This is where Clavio, of course, making his way out of Shoy's corner. And what exactly happened to him at this point? Took a bit of grass and then just went straight on. I wonder where he's picked up some damage early in the lap, and he's just decided to park the car up. And, well, just in the end, it's not going anywhere fast. I think he does come back on the track. Was he giving Bowman the place back? Yes, he was. So I think he decided to park up there off the grass out of respect for Zachary Bowman. I don't know if Zach will have seen that, but if so, Zach, I'm sure, will be walking down the pit lane after to say a big thank you to him. Then after that, we had this happen for John Lauzon on lap number 9. This was John Lauzon making his way onwards down towards turn number 1. And we have Matthew Meilleur behind him and also Polasek. And in the end, well, both drivers went wide there. That was the moment that enabled Polasek to start to feel a little bit more confident. And then we did have this huge moment for Matthew Shepka on lap number 9, ladies and gentlemen. Well, this one, hold on to your hats. So this was him making his way out Knickerbrook corner, taking a lot of grass and hitting the curb, hitting the side of Damon Mitchell's car, and in the end with the contact to the barrier as well. Front left a drop, front right a drop. The suspension was all in tatters. With that, back to your live racing we go. And as we come on back, well, still more excitement to be had here. We still have 7.5 minutes left on the clock, and with it, well, Micah Hendricks ahead of Logan McKinzie, with Wojciech Swirydowicz with him. So this top 3 now starting to get closer and closer together. And we look from them to behind Raymond Tew, the leader of the Gammas, still keeping Polasek and Meilleur at bay as they roll the way through turn number 5. But right now, still more to come. And we see Jared Cownin trying to make his way around the outside of Cooper Akers there. Elbows out between the two of them. And there's going to be contact there. That's Bowman and Akers coming together, and Cooper Akers turned sideways there, and I think Bowman went all in for the move. We didn't quite see how it played out given the obscurity of the timing tower, but we see the consequences, and Akers in the end being turned and drops down the order as around the outside goes Swirydowicz, and Gareth McAllister will approach quickly, and right now Cooper Akers I think will be fuming at that one, but McAllister decides, well, I'm not quite sure what's happened to you, but I'm going to get this done. But it's now drag race down towards Knickerbrook corner, and McAllister finds himself on the inside here. Will he be able to get stopped in time? The answer is yes, because he's got the confidence, he's got the inside line and a nose ahead. He doesn't need more than that, and now McAllister is going to have to defend versus Akers, who'll be very keen to get back at him. But back to the front we go. Indeed, this race right now, chopping and changing every which way you look. There's entertainment everywhere. And, well, one of the big moments at the moment is Micah Hendricks. Can he hold on versus Logan McKinzie and Wojciech Swirydowicz? Keep an eye on, of course, that Logan McKinzie in the number 4 would love to take another win. It's been some time since we've seen him on the top step of the podium, and he is breathing all down the neck of the Croc Promotions car. 3 different teams inside the top 3 spots. 2 Velocitas and a Honda. With the breakfast for dinner Honda right now, Swirydowicz eager to try and take a win to get back at Polasek and Meilleur from race number 1. But that's going to be easier said than done, particularly when the 2 in front right now are really locking horns. But through Lakeside in towards Island Bend, and McKinzie 2 tenths behind at this point. The confidence has got to be building as we ride on board with the Pennzoil Super Touring machine. But of course, confidence is one thing, finding a place to overtake at Oulton Park is another entirely. Coming out of the corner there, and when he is this close, of course, he does have a bit of obscurity now inside the cockpit. This camera, not as flattering as what the driver actually sees, but it gives you an idea of the fact the closer you get to the machine in front of you, the less of the circuit you can see towards what is the sides of the circuit, and therefore it means you've now got to rely on muscle memory and what is your ability to know what the concertina effect does to your racing line. Through Knickerbrook, McKinzie absolutely faultless there. Even with the dirty air, it does not stop him. Gap 2 tenths as they come in towards Druid. And right now, he's too far back to try and make a move, but that shows you how much this means to him when he's able to glue himself to the back of the number 73, and he's not showing any signs of wilting under this pressure for now. Down towards Lodge they come, and this time too far back as your top 4 definitely scoring away. Meanwhile, Polasek looking around the outside to inside here of TU in towards Lodge. He's going to move into full place there. The Gamma leader does not fight it too hard. And Matthew Mayer for close company here. I wouldn't be surprised if TU is going to try and hold on to 5th for a little bit, but then he might just let that go. Knowing that right now he's still the Gamma leader here, and with a 6th place finish, it will still be more than enough to give him the confidence going to Sebring, knowing he's going to add up all the dots. But as John Malzahn behind him has got Mike Almeida and Zachary Learbold close behind. All Malzahn right now is the unenviable task of making sure that nobody breaks the 1-2 hold that Beaver and D's have right now on this race, and indeed in the Gamma Championship. But when their main rival is a long way back down the far lane in the pit lane with the damage to his car, all right now this is the golden ticket for them to really extend their championship lead before 2 rounds remaining becomes 1. Oh, hold up a second, what on earth's happened there? That's got silence for over to you. The car sliding on around, and as they're going to be disaster. Well, we were just saying about how it's looking so set on for 1-2 and Beaver and D's, and the commentator's curse strikes hard, and his car is damaged. The headlights out there on the front left. I think he's had haste to a wall, but what exactly has happened to Raymond Tew, I'm not quite sure. He's towing to the pits by looks of things. He's parked up, and Raymond Tew is out of this race. My goodness, just like that, click a finger, and it's all over for the Gamma leader, and that Gamma Championship lead now is now looking to be anywhere near as comfortable as we thought it was going to be. And right now, Micah Hendricks, meanwhile, we won't know anything about that. But all he's got to know about is the fact that Logan McKinzie and Wojciech Swirydowicz are so close at this point. This top 3 right now is definitely boiling up. But as McKinzie takes a quick look to the inside, it's not going to be enough this time around. And, well, whilst they build up for the battle, we have a quick opportunity to take a look back at what exactly happened to Raymond Tew and also to Cooper Akers. So this was the Cooper Akers incident firstly. Side by side with Jared Cownin's coming out of the corner, and I believe Zachary Bowman's going to go for the move here. He does. So he sides to the inside, that taps Akers and sends Akers on around. But what exactly happened to Raymond Tew? That's what we need to know. Here we go. So, back in time, side by side with Michael Polasek here, and just runs a bit too wide, touches the grass, and in the end hits the left-hand side barrier, ricochets off of it, and after hitting the apex curve there, Shell Oils, that with the front suspension damage heavily on both sides, and for TU, it was going nowhere more fast, and that would have been a tow to the pits, and what a heartbreaking moment there for the Gamma Championship leader. That's going to hurt, but with that, we must come back to your live racing. And so as we do come on back, no change between your top three at the moment. And, well, they continue to push each other on. But we can see Wojciech Swirydowicz now 2 tenths behind. But the Honda is just not quick enough on the straight. He tries to stay as close as he possibly can. But as he fans out and fans back in, it's not looking right now. Instead, Logan McKinzie really is becoming the man in the middle here. He's got to either push forward or start going defensive. And I think McKinzie knows what he wants to do. We know what he wants to do. He wants to go forward. He's going to go too wide here. Into towards Walter's out. But it's going to be on the outside for Druids. Takes a lot of curb. It unsells the car. Does he get under control? He does. My good Lord, Logan. You're a madman for doing that. But he does get it under control. But here comes Swirydowicz. He sees the doors open. He's going to look around to the outside. And now as Hendricks goes defensive here, that's all we can do at this point. And the Honda driver, well, he's going to knock on one door. He's going to knock the other side now as they come roaring out of the corner. And Swirydowicz, this is where he does well. When other drivers start to get unsettled, he really can pile on the pressure. He really is one of the inevitable drivers there. If you give him an inch, he's going to take the entire mile. And going down with only another lap remaining. Only one to go now. And as they come down the hill on lap number 16, well, you can understand if Wojciech Swirydowicz at this point, the confidence is brewing. He's going to be grinning like the Cheshire Cat as he comes on through. But right the way through what will be Cascades at this time. Well, McKinzie is back on him immediately. He couldn't quite capitalise on the chaos, but he is that close at the moment. Only attempt to separate him as he gets ready for Island Bend. Does he decide to go for it? No, he waits just a little bit longer, but this battling right now definitely building up to a crescendo here as Hendricks going defensive to the inside. McKinzie right now watching this and thinking, why can't I be involved as we ride on board? With your second place car, found his way onwards now along the hilltop straight. McKinzie only a tenth and a half back here, and he is going to be inching closer and closer. Swirydowicz's Honda does not have the speed. Now he's going to have to go defensive here as McKinzie looks to the grass, and when in the end he's able to find a little bit of space, Swirydowicz gives him that at least. And as they come down in towards the Knickerbrook quarter, the battle for second takes priority here. Hendricks right now may be given all the time he needs. Gap up to 6 tenths. The fight for second heads up the hill. Through clay they go, and in towards Water Tower, and it's going to be defensive from Swirydowicz every step of the way. But will he be clear coming in towards Druids? No, he's not. He's going to be too wide into the corner. McKinzie puts his nose in there, and Swirydowicz has to roll deep as a result. He's still there. Here's McKinzie still poking and probing, but it's not enough. Meilleur and Polasek are caught up as well. But with only 5 seconds left on the clock, there's no more laps to go in this one. Surely now the checker flag awaits, and whilst they're all fighting for second place vying for Micah Hendricks, it's going to be a win to be remembered here for Crop Promotions. He takes the win overall in the Alphas ahead of Wojciech Swirydowicz, who does hold off McKinzie. There'll be Polasek and Meilleur ahead of John Lauzon, who in the end does pick up the pieces for the Gamma win in 6th place ahead of Mighty Almeida, with Zachary Leopold returning to the Gamma podium in 8th. Then Kurt Smith takes back-to-back Delta wins today in 9th place for breakfast dinner. Well done to him, his best result of the season. Ahead of Zachary Bowman with Chris McDonald coming on home in 2nd place of the Deltas ahead of Jared Cownin's returns to the podium. Fuenal Ritchie just fell short, but 4th place in Delta, 13th overall. He's really smiling about that ahead of Cooper Akers and Gareth McAllister. And McAllister there takes his best performance of the season with that 5th place in the Delta class in the sprint at least. Well done to him from Monster Energy Racing. And well, we've still got a few more drives to finish this race as we do see Billy Van Beek coming across line in 23rd. A great result from his season best so far, 10th in the Delta class. He's a man to watch out for. Tyler Long, by the way, we didn't talk about the TCR Racing Ascent cars. Long and Trost made their way to 20th and 21st respect to the 8th and 9th in class, so some points being taken in this race at least for them. Aaron Clavio is coming through in 27th, not the day he's wanted in the second race, and we gave that place back after the contact he saw with Zachary Bowman earlier on. Well done to him for the gentlemanly endeavour. Zach Hudako took 30th just off camera there, and Mark Darnell finishes in 31st, and we've still got Raymond Hugh to get to the end of this one. And for poor Raymond, well, he got the fast repair done to the car in the end, and he's going to finish as he starts. He wants every point from this race. Indeed, he knows right now how much it means to go to Sebring as the championship leader, and he will finish 9th in Gamma, but 32nd overall. Not that many points compared to race 1, but points all the same, and those points will mean prizes at the end of the season. But goodness me, what a race, ladies and gentlemen. And there's Damon Mitchell, 16th in the end, coming all the way through from a pit lane start in race number 1 to 16th and 6th in the Gamma class. We weren't far off saying he would be in the top 15. He was 1 place off of it there, and at Oulton Park as well. What an absolutely brilliant drive from the number 27 driver. But as they all cool them down, it definitely has been a race full of heroics and incredible moments, as Oulton Park always delivers. But with all the drivers making their way back into the pit lane, well, let's make our way to those race results, subject to any Stewart inquiries. And as we can see, after an absolutely mad cap, 25 minutes of racing for our second and final race of the day, our final sprint race of the season here in round number 8 of season 16 of the Alpha Touring Challenge, brought to you, of course, by Syncmesh and Glass and Steel Photography and Design. Micah Hendricks takes another win for Crop Promotions there. They've come rarely this season, but when they come, they are emphatic ones, and he's done it by 1.1 seconds in the end over Wojciech Swirydowicz, who in the end had to focus on fighting and holding off second there for breakfast or dinner ahead of Logan McKinzie for Pennzoil Supertoy, who with a small, slender mistake lost second, lost the chance of the win, and had to settle for third. Michael Polasek taking fourth place there, the number one driver for Yellow Flag Motorsport, knowing that with that result, when we do go to Sebring in a week's time, all he's got to do is turn up and finish the races with a decent set of points, and that fifth championship crown will be his, of course, based on Ashfield's inquiries, and also that is some quick early mathematics in my brain. And then John Lauzon for just behind Matthew Meilleur there. The S-Yacht G driver completed the top 5 for what was all your Alpha drivers, and John Lauzon in 6th place there from Beaver and D's as somebody decides to launch a car into the air there in the back of the picture. Well, that's definitely getting a bit inventive on the slope in there. And John Lauzon, not to be distracted any further, taking the Gamma win there for Beaver and D's. It was looking to be a comfortable 1-2 for the team, but sadly it wasn't to be after that late incident for Raymond Tiu. And instead, the number 77 driver having to pick things up, knowing that this could have been the round that really propelled the team back into the top 3 fight in the team's championship, and also really cemented a 1-2 in the Gamma championship. But now Sebring is going to be where they've got to get the job done. Mike De Almeida took 7th place there, second in the Gammas for Yellow Flag Motorsport. Not quite on the pace of his race number 1, but to be fair, did very well to come on through, and in the end being the right place to take the second place header Zachary Leopold, who returns to the Gamma podium once again for Formula Llama, and the Audi driver today are very impressive over both races. Kurt Smith, his best round of the season by far. The breakfast dinner driver, absolutely untouchable to a degree here today. And the number 3 driver from Canada will be absolutely ecstatic when he gets out of the car to celebrate with the team. And if it's breakfast for dinner, will he be having dinner for breakfast? Well, we'll have to see. As meanwhile, Zachary Bowman in the end round off your top 10 there for Pennzoil Supertoy, some big points coming his way, but unfortunately that contact between himself and Evan Clavier really spoiling his chances of perhaps taking the Gamma win. Chris McDonald was best of the rest there, second of the Deltas for Gator Racing, and how things have been flipped upside down after what was a very challenging race number 1, when this one definitely getting the job done to be on the podium, and second is where it was in Delta. Jared Kelnins was right behind him, another podium for him, not quite a Delta win today, but definitely a 3rd place, and more podiums coming his way as well as top 5s, and it was third Al Ritchie just behind there by 5 seconds, but the S-Yacht G driver enjoying himself and finishing in 13th place. Cooper Akers took 14th for the Pennzoil Supertouring drive, recovering well after his mid-race incident ahead of Gareth McAllister, with the Monster Energy Racing drive completing that top 15. And it was Damon Mitchell in 16th place. They're coming all the way through the field over both races, ahead of Major Monsavai. Behind the privateer, Monster Energy Racing's Mitchell Richmeyer was ahead of Gator Racing's Jason Lynn, and Tyler Long for TCR Racing Ascent, who then completed your top 20. Outside the top 20, let's not forget about them. It was none other than Carl Trost there, behind his teammate, but finishing 21st. With John Daniels 22nd there for TCR Racing Summit in the sister team, and he was only ahead of Billy Van Beek by 3 tenths, and credit where it's due to the privateer in the number 97. He really came alive in race number 2, and hopefully we'll get to see that in the final 2 rounds of the season. I suspect right now, with his first top 10 in the Delta class in this race, he's going to be chasing more of those at Sebring, and also in our season finale, if not going outright for perhaps top 5s. Spencer Clark took 24th in the end for Sia. To be fair, did a very good job of making his way past some of the Deltas on the way, including none other than Corey Lobner, who was ahead of Jared Dixon, who had a much happier race number 2 compared to his race 1. And then we did see Evan Clavio giving the places back after parking up on the exit of Hislop's Corner. And well, I understand the fact that Zachary Bowman will be very pleased to see the treatment paid in kind. And in the end, the sim racing grid driver 90 wants to do things fairly rather than unfairly. Kevin Johnson taking 28th there, moving forward. The privateer ahead of Jeremy Barber. And then Zach Hodako completing that top 30 with that difficult late race incident. Mark Darnell was 31st. Ahead of Raymond Tiu, who in the end did finish the race on the lead lap, even if it was a tow to the pits after his huge incident from the lead of the Gamma class right at the end. And then we did see an early retirement for Sears Matt Shepka, as we also saw retirements for Dan McFarlane, Jason Breen, James Carr, Con Atchella, Joseph Heath, and a non-start for Angel Bonilla Soto for Midpack Mafia. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that concludes both of our races here today at the Oulton Park International Circuit. The northwest of England has definitely delivered. It's no wonder why it's referred to as the beating heart of northwestern motorsport in the UK. And as all the drivers cool them down and pack up their bags to return to the US of A for next week's racing, well, it's time for us to wrap up. Thank you very much for watching, and if you have enjoyed today's show, and perhaps you're sat there right now wanting to know more about the Alpha Touring Challenge or how you can get on the grid for an upcoming season of racing, because of course, Season 16 is heading towards its conclusion, but Season 17 will not be too far away, and we'll talk more about Season 17 towards the end of the season in the season finale broadcast. Well, for all that and more, if you just want to know about the history of the series, if you want to know about the Hall of Famers, well, the number one place to go to is, of course, the official website at alphatouringchallenge.com. This website, of course, an absolutely brilliant website. It really is your encyclopedia of knowledge with news articles updated and uploaded every week with regards to the previous rounds of the season. And you can see in the drop downs at the top centre of the screen, in the fact there, you do have access to all the latest information regarding the ongoing season, all the previous broadcasts, the full history, you name it, it's there, even some merchandise as well. And definitely go to the website if you want to be on the grid with us at the Alpha Touring Challenge. We'd also like to take a moment to say a big shout out to our series partners, who do include, first and foremost, none other than Syncmesh. And, well, for those not in the know, born out of the pursuit of one man's search for better gear for sim racing, Syncmesh is the company which provides purpose-built gear wear for sim racing, ranging from gloves through to full line of performance wear. With an obsessive attention to detail in their gear, which aligns with your attention to detail in nailing lap after lap on the simulator, you could not ask for better gear to make your racing experience better. And if you'd like to know more, do head to their website at sync-mesh.com today. We'd also like to say a big thank you to our other series partner, that's Glass and Steel Photography and Design, and the Alpha Touring Challenge's official photographer, Jason Lynn, who you've seen on the grid today, mixing it up with the very best, is a highly talented and approachable individual who provides both photography and livery design services for the iRacing simulator platform as part of Glass and Steel Photography and Design. But don't just take our word for it. If the thumbnails and images you saw at today's broadcast are not enough proof, those of course all being provided by Glass and Steel Photography and Design, well, do keep in mind that with 5-star reviews from his clientele, citing him as easy to work with, detail orientated and a very fast responder, if you're looking for pixel precise photography or a livery design to dominate the competition, then why not head to Jason Lynn's website at glassnsteel1.wordpress.com today. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, that's all we've got time for today. And where exactly do we head to next time? Well, we are making our way back to the US of A, to the US state of Florida for Sebring International Raceway. And there, when our drivers go racing for round number 9 on Monday, the 2nd of March 2026, they'll have to deal with 17 varied corners, but also the fact that it's one of the bumpiest circuits in the world, and many liken it to being the test before Le Mans. Because with its old concrete mixing it up with modern asphalt, our drivers will have plenty of road surface transition to conquer, but also plenty of opportunities for overtakes. But come join us and catch the action as if it were live on Tuesday, the 3rd of March 2026, where we'll potentially get to see, if he gets it right, Michael Polasek wrap up his 5th title crown with a round to spare over on in the Alpha Championship. And meanwhile, in the Gammas and the Deltas, well, for the Gammas at least, it's looking all heading towards a Beaver and D's 1-2, but Raymond T knows that he dropped the ball in race number 2, and in the Delta class, Tyler Long's championship lead, it has almost been fully eroded, and the door is wide open to see whether Chris McDonald, Evan Clavier, or Jarek Calnins can potentially steal the championship crown array with 2 rounds to go. But for all that and more, come tune in next time. But until then, we have been the Alpha Touring Challenge. I've been your host and commentator, Paul Walsh. You've been tuning to a Paul Walsh production. And until next time, remember to stay safe, stay well, stay smiling, and most importantly, as always, ladies and gentlemen, remember to stay on track. Good night.